Rain drizzled across the streets of Shanghai. Cold drops splattered onto the dark asphalt. Night fell earlier than usual, the sky a gloomy black, as if shrouded in a funeral pall. Shops along the street closed one by one, their warm yellow lights dimming, extinguished. Only one storefront remained brightly lit. Silk Brocade Pavilion, the 4 characters of the shop's name, encased in an antique bronze frame, written in fluid yet firm hand script. This was the most renowned tailor shop in the Old Quarter, specializing in traditional qipaos, the intricate formal wear of a bygone Republican era. Li Anh, the shop's owner, sat hunched over a piece of dark blue silk. Her slender fingers skillfully worked the needle, each stitch as steady as a heartbeat. She was 32 this year, her long hair falling around her, obscuring a delicate but somewhat pallid face. Her eyes were dark, yet held a perpetual weariness, the kind borne by someone carrying a heavy past. The chime of the doorbell startled Li Anh. She looked up to see a figure stumble in, bringing with them the cold wind and damp scent of the rainy night. It was a middle-aged woman, her hair streaked with white, her face ashen like someone gravely ill. She walked with a tremor, clutching an old cloth bag to her chest. "Sister, can you mend a dress?" The woman's voice was hoarse, as if she had cried too much. Li Anh rose, a polite smile gracing her lips. "Of course, please have a seat. Let me see what needs mending." The woman sat on the chair opposite, but didn't release her bag. She glanced around nervously, her cloudy eyes searching for something. Then, slowly, she opened the bag and pulled out a qipao. As the dress emerged under the light, Li Anh felt the temperature in the room drop several degrees. It was an antique qipao, made of dark blue silk, almost black. Its design was very elaborate, a high collar, long sleeves, with fabric-covered buttons running from the neck straight down to the hip. But what made Li Anh shiver wasn't the style, but the embroidered flowers on the dress. Crimson peonies, intricately stitched down to each petal and stamen, but amidst the blossoms were strange, dark red streaks, looking like dried bloodstains. "This dress," Li Anh exhaled, her voice catching. "Where did it come from?" The woman didn't answer immediately. She bowed her head, her shoulders trembling uncontrollably. "This is my daughter's dress. She died 3 years ago, but she keeps visiting me. Every night I see her wearing this dress at the foot of my bed." Li Anh swallowed, a cold sensation spreading down her spine. She reached out for the dress, her movements slow and careful. The silk felt unnaturally cool beneath her fingertips. A strange scent emanated from it, the smell of river mud and something heavy, suffocating, indescribable. "I want you to mend this dress," the woman said, her voice full of pleading. "Make it beautiful. Perhaps then she'll find peace and stop bothering me." Li Anh looked down at the dress. A cold premonition flickered in her heart, but she was a professional, and no matter how eerie, a dress was still just an object. She nodded. "I'll do my best." The woman stood up, hastily dropped a stack of money on the counter, and then rushed out the door, as if afraid that if she delayed for a second, she would be dragged back. The doorbell chimed, then fell silent. Li Anh didn't even have time to ask for an address to return the dress. The room plunged into silence, broken only by the rain outside and Li Ann's breathing. She turned the dress in her hands, examining each stitch, each embroidered detail. The skill of the old tailor was truly extraordinary. The tiny stitches were incredibly smooth, but beneath that beauty was a suffocating sensation, as if the dress itself were breathing. "No, it can't be." Li Anh shook her head, telling herself she was imagining things. She folded the dress carefully, placed it in a paper box, and locked it in the cabinet. But that night, as Li Anh went upstairs to sleep, she kept feeling as if someone was standing outside the shop, looking in. Each time she peeked through the window, the street was quiet, empty. Only the shadows of trees swayed in the wind, creating grotesque shapes under the streetlights. And that strange scent kept wafting up, the smell of the river. That night, Li Anh lay in bed but couldn't sleep. Outside her window, the rain continued to fall relentlessly. The drops hitting the roof sounded like footsteps running wildly. She tossed and turned, trying to close her eyes, but the image of the qipao kept appearing in her mind. The red peonies, the dried bloodstains, and the woman's eyes filled with an unnameable terror. She didn't know when she finally drifted off, but when she opened her eyes, she was no longer in her bedroom. She was standing on the bank of a river, dense fog enveloping everything. She could only see the dark, slow-moving water. There were no bird calls, no wind, only the sluggish sound of the river, like the whispers of the dead. Li Anh looked down and saw herself standing on a wet clay bank, her footprints sinking deep into the mud. "Anyone? Is anyone here?" she called out, but her voice was swallowed by the fog. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the mist. It was a tall, slender young woman. She wore a dark blue Qipao, the very dress Li Anh had taken in last night. Her long black hair fell to her waist, obscuring her face. She walked slowly closer, each step silent. Li Anh wanted to run, but her feet felt rooted to the ground. She could only stand and watch the figure approach, step by step. When they were just 3 steps apart, the woman stopped. Slowly, she lifted her face. Li Anh screamed. That face was no longer human. The skin was deathly pale, eyes sunken into 2 black holes, mouth gaping wide as if wanting to devour the world. But the most horrifying detail was the murky streaks of water running down her face, like river water seeping from her flesh. "Help, help me." Her voice was hoarse, like someone drowning. "Don't let me die forever in this river." Pale hands reached out, fingers long and skeletal, like claws. Li Anh tried to dodge but was too late. The icy cold hand touched her shoulder. A chilling sensation spread through her entire body. Li Anh woke up, gasping for breath. She was still in her bed in her room. Outside, it was morning, faint sunlight filtering through the curtains. She sat up, wiping sweat from her forehead. Just a nightmare, just a dream. But when she looked down at her shoulder, her blood ran cold. On the fabric of her nightgown was a wet, black handprint, like river mud. Li Anh didn't dare go down to the shop immediately. She sat at her dressing table, staring at the handprint on her nightgown. She touched it, feeling its dampness and icy cold. The strong smell of river water wafted up. It couldn't be a dream. It couldn't be imagination. She hastily took off the nightgown, threw it into the laundry basket, and put on something else. But the cold sensation still clung to her skin as if something had marked her. "Calm down, Li Anh asterisk," she told herself, taking a deep breath. "It's just a coincidence. Maybe the rain last night was heavy and water seeped through the window." But she knew she was lying to herself. When she went down to the shop, Li Anh opened the cabinet to check the Qipao. It was still there, neatly in its paper box. But strangely, the dress was no longer folded as it had been last night. It lay spread out flat, as if someone had taken it out to look at it and then put it back. Li Anh closed the cabinet, her hands trembling. She decided not to think about it anymore, to focus on her work. That morning, 2 old customers came to pick up altered dresses. She had to complete the orders, but all morning she couldn't concentrate. Her hand holding the needle trembled, often pricking herself by mistake. Thoughts swirled in her head. Who was that woman last night? What was the history of that dress? And where did that nightmare come from? At noon, while eating in the small kitchen behind the shop, Li Anh suddenly remembered someone. Old man Zhang, an elderly neighbor who lived at the end of the street. He had told her many old stories about this neighborhood. Perhaps he knew something. She locked the shop door, put on a cloth hat, and went straight to old man Zhang's house. It was a small, narrow old house, brick walls covered in green moss. She knocked, the sound echoing in the quiet alley. "Who is it?" Old man Zhang's aged voice called out. "It's Li Anh, uncle. I have something to ask you." The door opened, revealing old man Zhang's wrinkled face. He looked at her, his expression serious. "Li Anh, come in." The room inside was dim, filled with the strong scent of traditional Chinese medicine. Old man Zhang invited her to sit on an old bamboo chair and poured her a cup of tea. "What brings you to see me?" Li Anh recounted the story of the woman last night, the Qipao, and the nightmare. As she spoke, she noticed old man Zhang's face gradually turn pale. He put his teacup down, his hand trembling. "A dark blue Qipao embroidered with red peonies," he murmured. Do you know the legend of the cursed dress?" Li Anh shook her head. Old man Zhang sighed, his eyes distant as if recalling old memories. "That's a story from the Republican era, nearly 100 years ago. There was a girl named Gao Bing from Jiangnan village, incredibly beautiful. She loved a young man named Qin. They swore an oath to marry, but fate wouldn't allow it. Gao Bing's family was poor, while Qin came from a wealthy family. His parents vehemently objected, forcing him to marry the daughter of a high-ranking official. Qin Zhai was weak. He dared not defy them and eventually abandoned Gao Bing. The night before Qin Zhai's wedding, Gao Bing wore the dark blue kip, the dress she had made to wear on her own wedding day with her beloved, and jumped into the river to commit suicide. Before she died, she left a curse. "If I cannot be happy, then let no one else dream of it." From then on, that dress became a vessel of immense resentment. Anyone who wore it, anyone who touched it, met with disaster. Some drowned, some went mad, some disappeared without a trace. People say Gao Bing's ghost still clings to the dress, unwilling to move on. Li Anh listened, her body turning cold. So the dress in my shop." Old man Zhang nodded, his face full of worry. "If it is indeed that dress, you have encountered something very dangerous. That dress disappeared for many years. Some rumored it was burned, others that it was buried deep underground. But it always reappears, time and again." "So what should I do now?" Li Anh asked, her voice trembling. "Return it to the person who brought it. Don't keep it," Old man Zhang said seriously. "But you must be careful. Don't let the ghost in the dress drag you into its world." Li Anh nodded, thanked Old man Zhang, and hurried home. On her way back to the shop, she kept feeling as if someone was watching her. The passers-by, the shops, the tree shadows, everything became suspicious, and the smell of river water, it clung to her, never leaving. Evening descended faster than usual. The sky turned gray, dark clouds swirling as if a great storm was brewing. Li Anh closed the shop early, trying not to look at the cabinet containing the ghostly dress, but her mind couldn't rest. Old man Zhang's story kept replaying in her head. Gao Bing, the girl who jumped into the river for love, carrying her hatred to her death. Did that ghost truly exist? Was it somewhere in this shop right now? Li Anh decided to go upstairs early. She locked the door securely, turned off all the lights, leaving only a small lamp on her desk. But just as she was about to climb the stairs, the doorbell suddenly rang. Ding, ding, ding. Li Anh stopped, her heart pounding. Who would come at this hour? It's already dark. She hesitated for a moment, then turned back and opened the door. Outside stood a man in his 40s, wearing a glossy black suit, holding a folded umbrella. His face was serious, his eyes sharp as knives, looking directly at Li Anh. "Excuse me for disturbing your evening," he said, his voice deep and warm. "I am Chen Shanghai. I heard you received a special Qipao." Li Anh looked at him, a sense of wariness rising within her. "Where did you hear that?" "From an acquaintance." Chen Shanghai opened his bag and took out an old piece of paper. "This is a photo. Please, tell me if it's the dress you're holding." Li Anh took the paper. It was a faded black and white photograph, seemingly very old. In the picture was a young woman with a delicate face and deep, sad eyes, wearing a dark blue Qipao embroidered with red peonies. "It's exactly that dress," Li Anh asked, her voice trembling slightly. What do you want?" "I want to buy that dress back," Chen Shanghai said seriously. "I will pay any price you ask, but please don't keep it. It's very dangerous." I also want to return it to the sender," Li Anh said, but the woman didn't leave an address. Chen Shanghai nodded, as if he had expected this. "Then please hand the dress over to me. I know how to handle it." Li Anh hesitated. On one hand, old man Zhang's advice not to keep the dress. On the other, this strange man, whose trustworthiness she couldn't discern. But between the two options, she suddenly felt that giving the dress to Chen Shanghai might be the safer choice. "All right, please wait a moment." Li Anh went inside, opened the cabinet, and pulled out the paper box containing the dress. But when she opened the lid, her heart stopped. The box was empty, the Qipao was gone. "No, it can't be." Li Anh frantically turned the box upside down, her hands trembling. She opened all the cabinet drawers, checked everywhere, but the dress had vanished as if dissolving into thin air. Chen Shanghai stood at the door, his face growing serious. "The dress is gone." "No, I don't understand why." Li Anh turned to him, panicked. "Last night I put it in here. This morning I still saw it. But now." Chen Shanghai walked in, looking around the room. He sniffed the air, then bent down to examine the floor. "Did you let anyone into the shop today?" "Yes, some regular customers," Li Anh replied, "but they only picked up altered dresses and left. no one went near the cabinet. So it disappeared on its own. Chen Zhai stood up, his voice deepening. Or someone took it when you weren't paying attention. But I locked the door carefully, and nothing strange happened all day. Chen Zhai looked straight into Li An's eyes. Are you sure? No strange noises, no strange figures, no strange smells. Li An suddenly remembered the smell of river water. All day, that scent had vaguely appeared, but she thought it was just from yesterday's rain. There was the smell of river water, she said softly. Chen Zhai nodded, as if he understood. It's here. The ghost in the dress hasn't left. Perhaps it's hiding somewhere in this shop. Li An felt goosebumps spread across her body. So what should I do? First, you shouldn't stay here tonight, Chen Zhai said seriously. Find somewhere else to sleep. I'll investigate whether the dress is truly in the shop or not. But this is my home. I can't just leave. Your life is more important. Chen Zhai looked at her meaningfully. If you stay, the ghost will find you, and then you may not have a chance to escape. Li An swallowed. On one side, her familiar home where she had lived for years. On the other, an invisible danger lurking. After a moment of thought, she nodded. All right, I'll go to a friend's house. Chen Zhai took out a business card and handed it to her. This is my phone number. If anything happens, call me immediately. Li An took the card, looking at the printed words. Chen Zhai, spiritual expert, investigator of supernatural phenomena. A spiritual expert? Li An didn't know whether to believe him or not, but in her current situation, this was the only guidance she had. She packed a few essentials into a small bag, then left the shop with Chen Zhai. Before leaving, she turned back to look at her home one last time. In the darkness, the shop looked like a gaping mouth waiting to swallow anyone who entered. And from the second floor, from the window of her bedroom, a dark shadow flashed past like lightning. Li An gasped, pointing up. Look, something's up there. Chen Zhai looked up, his eyes narrowing, but the shadow had vanished, leaving only empty darkness. We should go, he said. Tonight, the ghost will come for you. Li An went to the house of Zhang Yuling, her close friend from high school. Yuling lived alone in a small apartment in the New District, about 3 kilometers from Li An's shop. When Yuling heard about the haunted dress, she looked worried but enthusiastically offered Li An a place to stay. You can stay here for a few days, Yuling said, patting her friend's shoulder. I'll make sure you're well fed, don't worry. But that night, Li An couldn't sleep. She lay on the extra bed in the living room, staring at the ceiling. Outside the window, the city lights flickered like watchful eyes. Every small sound, the passing cars, the wind blowing, a neighbor's door opening made her jump. The smell of river water was still there. Even after showering thoroughly, even after changing all her clothes, the scent clung to her like an invisible ghost. The wall clock chimed 12 times. Li An suddenly heard something from the kitchen, the sound of running water. But Yuling had been asleep for a long time, no one else was using water. She sat up, listening. The water continued to drip softly, as if someone was washing their hands. She stepped off the bed, her bare feet cold. Slowly, step by step, she crept towards the kitchen. Moonlight filtered through the window, casting faint, ethereal streaks of light on the floor. When she reached the kitchen doorway, she stopped. The faucet in the sink was running, but no one was there. Li An swallowed and walked into the kitchen. She turned off the faucet, but it turned itself back on. Once, twice, thrice, as if an invisible hand was twisting it. Don't mess with me, Li An whispered, her voice trembling. Suddenly, the kitchen light went out completely, leaving only the faint moonlight. And in the darkness, Li An saw a figure standing in the corner of the kitchen. The figure was tall and slender, wearing a dark blue dress. Who are you? Li An asked, her voice choked. The figure didn't answer. It just stood still, like a statue. But slowly, it began to move. Its footsteps were silent, as if it were floating in the air. Li An wanted to run, but her feet felt glued to the floor. The figure approached, step by step, and as it moved into the moonlight, Li An clearly saw its face. It was the face of a young, beautiful woman, but deathly pale. Her eyes were empty, pupilless, just 2 deep black holes. Her mouth was curved into a strange smile, stretched so wide it pulled at her skin. Help me, The voice that came from her mouth was hoarse, like someone drowning. Give me back my dress. Pale hands reached out, fingers long like demonic claws. Li Anh screamed. Finally, her legs could move. She turned and ran towards the door, but it suddenly slammed shut. She yanked the doorknob, but it was locked tight, as if welded to the wall. No, no, Li Anh screamed, pounding on the door desperately. The figure was behind her, icy breath on her neck. Li Anh felt a hand touch her shoulder, then the lights flipped on. Yu Ling stood at the bedroom door, her face pale. What are you doing? Why are you screaming? Li Anh turned back to the kitchen. It was empty. No figure, no running water, everything was normal. I saw. Li Anh couldn't speak, just stood there trembling. Yu Ling came over and hugged her. Are you having a nightmare? Calm down. But Li Anh knew it wasn't a nightmare. The ghost had followed her here. No matter where she hid, it would find her. The next morning, Li Anh immediately called Chen Shanghai. He arranged to meet her at an old tea house in the old quarter. When Li Anh arrived, he was already waiting, a steaming teapot in front of him. You don't look well, Chen Shanghai said, looking at her pale face. Li Anh sat down and recounted what had happened last night. As she spoke, her hand trembled, making the tea in her cup ripple. Chen Shanghai listened, his expression serious. When she finished, he nodded. As I said, the ghost has marked you. It won't let go. So what should I do? Li Anh asked, her voice filled with despair. I can't live like this, facing a demon every night. There is a way, Chen Shanghai said, but you must understand the history of that dress. You must find the origin of the curse. Only when we know that can we break it. But how can I know? The dress appeared nearly 100 years ago. Chen Shanghai smiled faintly. I investigated yesterday after you left. I looked into the Qin family, the family of Qin Zhaizhai, the man who drove Gao Bing to despair. The Qin family still has descendants living in Shanghai. Li Anh was surprised. Still. Indeed, and I found one, Qin Ryu Chen, the great-grandson of Qin Zhaizhai. He currently lives in an old villa in the suburbs. If you want to know the truth, we should go meet him. Li Anh weighed her options. On one side, the invisible terror lurking, on the other, a chance to uncover the truth. Finally, she nodded. I'll go. Good, Chen Shanghai stood up. We'll leave now, the sooner the better, the ghost won't wait long. Chen Shanghai's car drove along a deserted suburban road. On both sides were desolate fields, overgrown with weeds. The sky was already gray, as if it was about to rain. Li Anh sat in the passenger seat, looking out the window, her heart filled with trepidation. What kind of person is Qin Ryu Chen? She asked. A recluse, Chen Shanghai replied. He rarely interacts with the outside world, living alone in that old villa. No one knows what he does all day. But according to my investigation, he keeps many documents about the Qin family, including the story of Gao Bing. Does he know about the haunted dress? I'm not sure, but I hope he can give us a clue. After half an hour of driving, they arrived in front of an old iron gate. Beyond the gate was a tree-lined driveway, at the end of which stood an old French-style villa. The walls were peeling, several window panes were broken. The garden in front of the house was overgrown with weeds, the withered flower bushes looked like a graveyard. Chen Shanghai parked the car and got out. Li Anh followed, an unsettling feeling rising within her. This villa looks like it's been abandoned for a long time, but Chen Shanghai said someone lives here. Could he be mistaken? They walked to the main door. Chen Shanghai knocked, the sound echoing in the silent space. A moment later, footsteps were heard from inside. The door opened, revealing a thin old man with white hair, his face deeply wrinkled and sorrowful. Who is it? The old man's voice was hoarse. Hello, I am Chen Shanghai. We would like to meet Mr. Qin Ryu Chen. The old man looked at them from head to toe, then nodded. I am Qin Ryu Chen. What do you want from me? We want to ask about the Qin family, specifically about a person named Gao Bing. Hearing Gao Bing's name, Qin Ryu Chen's expression changed. He stared at them as if weighing something, then he opened the door wider. Come in. Inside the villa was dim, with a strong smell of dampness and mold. Old furniture was covered in dust, and the walls were hung with old paintings and photos, most of which had faded. Qin Ryu Chen led them into a large living room, inviting them to sit on a dark brown leather sofa. "How do you know about Gao Bing?" he asked, his voice full of suspicion. Li Anh recounted the story of the Qipao and everything that had happened. As he listened, Qin Ryu Chen said nothing, only listened with a serious expression. When she finished, he sighed. "So it has reappeared," he said, his voice sad. "That cursed dress, I thought it had vanished forever." "You know about the dress?" Chen Shenjai asked. "Of course, how could I not?" Qin Ryu Chen stood up and walked to a wall covered with paintings. He pointed to an old photograph. "This is Qin Zhai, my ancestor." In the photo was a young man with a handsome but somewhat weak face. Beside him was a middle-aged woman, presumably his mother. "Qin Zhai was a weak man," Qin Ryu Chen continued. "He loved Gao Bing but dared not defy his family. In the end, he married the official's daughter as his parents commanded, but that marriage was not happy." "Why?" Li Anh asked. "Because his wife knew about Gao Bing. She was jealous and tormented him every day. Then, a year later, he went mad and jumped into the river to commit suicide, just like Gao Bing." Li Anh felt a cold shiver run down her spine. So the curse was fulfilled. "Indeed," Qin Ryu Chen nodded. "From then on, the Qin family suffered many misfortunes. Qin Zhai's son also drowned. His grandson also had a water-related accident. Generation after generation, there was always someone in the Qin family who died related to water. People say Gao Bing's ghost never forgave, demanding a blood debt from this family." "So how are you still alive?" Chen Shenjai asked, his voice curious. Qin Ryu Chen opened his shirt, revealing an amulet hanging on his chest. "I sought out a powerful master to make this protective amulet. Thanks to it, I've survived until now. But I also don't dare leave this house, fearing that once I step outside, the curse will find me." Li Anh felt despair. So is there any way to break the curse?" Qin Ryu Chen was silent for a moment, then said, "There is, but it's very difficult. To break the curse, you must find Gao Bing's body." "When she jumped into the river," Qin Ryu Chen explained, "her body was never found. People say her body was swept deep and trapped between rocks at the bottom of the river. If it can be found and given a proper burial, perhaps her soul will find peace." "But it's been almost 100 years, Li Anh said. "How can we find the body?" "There is a way." Qin Ryu Chen walked to an antique cabinet, opened it, and took out an old notebook. "This is Qin Zhai's diary. It records the location where she jumped into the river. If you're lucky, you might find it." He handed the notebook to Chen Shenjai. Chen Shenjai opened it and read. The notebook contained shaky handwriting, seemingly written in a state of mental distress. The last page had a passage. "Today I went to the riverbank where Bing once said she loved. Bing jumped from here. Under the moonlight, the river water was black as ink. I wanted to jump with Bing, but my legs wouldn't move. Bing, please forgive me. Jiangnan Bridge, the river section below, that is where Bing rests." "Jiangnan Bridge," Chen Shenjai said. "Does that bridge still exist?" "It does," Qin Ryu Chen replied, "but it's now abandoned. No one dares to cross it at night. People say wandering spirits are there." Li Anh swallowed. So we have to go down into the river to find the body." "There's no other way," Chen Shenjai said, "but we need to prepare carefully. Going into the river at night is very dangerous, especially in a haunted place." Qin Ryu Chen gave them another amulet. "Take this. It can protect you somewhat, but be careful. Gao Bing's spirit is very powerful. If you're unlucky, you might not return." Li Anh took the amulet, feeling its heavy weight in her hand. She looked at Chen Shenjai, then nodded. "I'll go. I have to end this." "Good," Chen Shenjai stood up. "We'll go to Jiangnan Bridge tonight. Prepare yourselves." It was completely dark when they arrived at Jiangnan Bridge. It was an ancient stone bridge spanning the Huangpu River. The bridge was badly dilapidated, the railings covered in moss, the bridge deck cracked. There were no lights, only faint moonlight illuminating it. Chen Shenjai parked the car nearby and took out a bag of supplies. In the bag were flashlights, ropes, and some spiritual items, incense, candles, talismans. "We will go down from the riverbank," he said. According to the diary, Gao Bing's body lies in the deep part of the river under the bridge. We must be careful. The river current is strong. Li Anh looked down at the river. The water was pitch black, its bottom invisible. The gurgling sound of the water was eerie in the night. She felt afraid, but there was no other way. They descended to the riverbank, following a narrow, slippery trail. The ground beneath their feet was slick, and in many places they had to cling to plants to keep their balance. Finally, they reached a rocky outcrop extending into the river. Chen Zhai lit incense and chanted a short incantation. Then he took out a rope, tied one end to a large tree, and looped the other around himself. "I will dive down to check," he said. "You wait up here. If anything happens, pull the rope immediately." Li Anh nodded. She shone her flashlight down at the water. Chen Zhai slowly stepped in, the icy water engulfing him. A moment later, he vanished into the darkness. Li Anh stood alone on the rocky bank, her heart pounding. All around her was only the sound of the flowing water and the whistling wind. No birds, no insects, as if the entire area had fallen silent. Suddenly, the flashlight in her hand flickered, then died. Darkness enveloped her. Li Anh quickly shook the light, but it wouldn't come back on. She stood in the darkness, illuminated only by the faint moonlight. And in that moonlight, she saw a figure standing in the middle of the river. The figure was tall, with long hair, wearing a dark blue Qipao. It stood on the water as if the water were solid ground. Slowly, it turned its face to Li Anh. It was Gao Bing, a pale face, empty eyes, and eerie smile. She raised a hand and pointed at Li Anh, her mouth opening in a hoarse, chilling laugh. Give back my dress." Li Anh wanted to run, but her feet felt rooted to the rock. She could only stand there and watch the ghost approach. Each of Gao Bing's steps left a trail of dark water on the river's surface. "No, don't come any closer," Li Anh whispered, tears welling up. But Gao Bing didn't stop. She reached the bank, stepping onto the rocky ground. When she was just one step away from Li Anh, she stopped. "You took my dress." Gao Bing's voice was hoarse, filled with resentment. "You must pay the price." Pale hands reached out, about to touch Li Anh. But at that moment, the rope gave a strong tug. Chen Zhai surfaced from the water, shouting, "Pull me up quickly." Li Anh snapped back to reality and frantically pulled the rope. Chen Zhai climbed onto the bank, holding something in his hand. When he reached the rocky ground, he collapsed, gasping for breath. I found it," he said, opening his hand. It was an antique silver hairpin, tarnished black. Engraved on it were two characters, Gao Bing. Li Anh looked at the hairpin, then turned back to where the ghost had been. But Gao Bing had vanished, leaving only the sound of the wind and the quiet water. Chen Zhai and Li Anh quickly left Jiangnan Bridge. In the car, he recounted what he had seen underwater. "It was very dark down there. I used my diving light to illuminate, but the water was murky. I couldn't see anything. I dove about 5 meters deep, clinging to rocks to maintain balance. Then I saw something trapped between two large rocks." He paused, sighing. It was a human skeleton, long turned to bone, only porous white bones remained. But tangled among the bones were fragments of dark blue silk, the fabric of the Qipao. Li Anh listened, feeling goosebumps all over her body. So that was Gao Bing's body. "Certainly," Chen Zhai nodded. "And this hairpin is also proof. But the problem is, how can we retrieve the body? It's stuck too tightly. I can't do it alone." "So we need more people?" Li Anh asked. "Yes, but not just ordinary people. They need to be experienced divers and unafraid of ghosts," Chen Zhai thought. "I know someone, Wang Zhiqiang, a professional diver. He has helped me investigate many supernatural cases related to water. I will contact him." "But will he be willing to help?" Li Anh worried. "This sounds very dangerous." "Wang Zhiqiang is a brave man. He has dived into places far more haunted than this. I believe he will help." Chen Zhai took out his phone and made a call. After a few minutes of talking, he nodded. He agreed. "Tomorrow, we will go back to the river again. This time, we'll bring specialized equipment." Li Anh breathed a sigh of relief, but her heart was still filled with unease. Would retrieving Gao Bing's body truly break the curse, or would it make everything worse? The next morning, Chen Zhai, Li Anh, and Wang Zhiqiang arrived together at Jiangnan Bridge. Wang Zhiqiang was a tall, burly man, about 50 years old, with sun-darkened skin and sharp eyes. He brought a full set of diving equipment: air tanks, powerful lights, cables, and some rock-breaking tools. "This is my first time retrieving a body," Wang Zhiqiang said, his voice full of enthusiasm. "But I've dived for many unusually dead bodies before, so I'm not too scared." Chen Zhai drew a rough diagram of Gao Bing's body location from memory. "It's here, between two large rocks. We have to use a sledgehammer to break one of the rocks before we can pull the body up." "Understood." Wang Zhiqiang checked his equipment one last time. "I'll go down first and mark the position. Then you, Chen, come down with me and we'll break the rock together. This young lady will stay up here and hold the rope." Li Anh nodded. She wore the amulet around her neck, silently praying that everything would go smoothly. Wang Zhiqiang and Chen Zhai put on their diving suits and masks, then slowly descended into the water. Li Anh stood on the bank, clutching the cable tightly in her hands. She looked down at the water, seeing air bubbles rising from the depths. Time passed minute by minute, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Li Anh began to worry. They've been down too long. Has something happened? Suddenly, the cable tugged sharply. Li Anh started, about to pull it up, but then there was a signal from below 3 short tugs. That was the signal. Working, no need to pull. She breathed a sigh of relief. But not long after, the water surface suddenly began to churn violently. Bubbles erupted in torrents as if something powerful was moving at the bottom. Li Anh felt uneasy. She gently pulled the cable, wanting to ask if they were okay, but there was no response. "Chen Zhai, Wang Zhiqiang," she shouted down at the water, but only her own voice echoed back. Suddenly, a dark figure surfaced from the depths. Li Anh jumped back, startled, but it was only Wang Zhiqiang. He surfaced, took off his diving mask, gasping for breath. There's a problem," he said, his voice trembling. "There's something down there hindering us." "What's something?" Li Anh asked. "I don't know, but every time we hit the rock, the water around it turns icy cold, and there are hands, invisible hands pulling us deeper." Li Anh felt terrified. "So Chen Zhai, he's still down there?" "He told me to come up and inform you, then go back down." Wang Zhiqiang took out a spare air tank. "This time, I'll bring more talismans. I hope they work." He tied talismans around his wrist, then dived back down. Li Anh stood alone on the bank, filled with anxiety. She looked around, feeling the air grow oppressive. It was bright daylight, but the area seemed shrouded in a hazy mist, and the smell of river water, that smell, was stronger than ever. Underwater, Chen Zhai was wrestling with something invisible. He felt icy cold hands pulling him down, trying to drag him away from the rock that held Gao Bing's body. He swung his diving knife through the water, but hit nothing. His diving light flickered, then died completely. He could only feel the enveloping darkness and the pressure of the water. He knew he didn't have much time. His air tank was almost empty. Suddenly, a light flashed. It was Wang Zhiqiang, swimming down with a powerful spotlight. Wang Zhiqiang reached Chen Zhai's side, handed him a spare air tank. He pointed to the rock, gesturing to continue working. The two men together used the sledgehammer to strike the rock. Each blow resonated underwater, but the rock was incredibly hard, only developing a few small cracks. Suddenly, shadowy figures appeared around them. These shadows moved as swiftly as fish, darting towards them. Chen Zhai felt a strong pull, almost losing his balance. Wang Zhiqiang raised his talisman, which emitted a faint yellow light. The shadows seemed to fear the light, retreating. But they didn't vanish, merely lingered, waiting for an opportunity. Chen Zhai understood there was no more time to hesitate. He gathered all his strength and delivered the strongest blow yet to the rock. With a resounding crash, the rock split in two. In the crevice, Gao Bing's skeleton was clearly revealed. Porous white bones, fragments of dark blue silk still clinging, and long hair still attached to the skull. "Careful!" Chen Zhai carefully pulled the skeleton out, placing it into a specialized net bag. But as soon as he touched the bones, a terrifying scream echoed through the water. It wasn't a sound scream, but a shockwave that made both men cover their ears. The surrounding water suddenly boiled, and the shadowy figures converged into a large mass, forming the shape of a woman. It was Gao Bing, the ghost manifesting underwater. Her face was pale, eyes empty, hair floating. She opened her mouth as if to swallow them whole, long hands reaching out, fingers sharp as knives. Chen Shenzhai and Wang Zhiqiang frantically swam upwards, but Gao Bing was faster. She lunged, grasping Chen Shenzhai's leg. He felt a powerful force pulling him deeper. Wang Zhiqiang turned and slashed at the ghostly hand with his diving knife. This time, the knife connected. The ghostly hand smoked black and recoiled. Gao Bing shrieked, momentarily releasing Chen Shenzhai. The two men quickly swam to the surface. As they surfaced, Li Anh quickly pulled them ashore. Chen Shenzhai collapsed onto the rocky bank, gasping for breath, still clutching the net bag containing Gao Bing's bones. "Done. It's done," he said, his voice exhausted. But it wasn't over. The surface of the water suddenly broke apart. Gao Bing manifested on the water, her entire body soaked, her eyes fixed on them. She stepped onto the bank, her steps slow but menacing. Give back my bones." Her voice resonated, filled with resentment. Li Anh trembled and stepped back, but Chen Shenzhai stood up, holding out the net bag. "We will return them, but not here. We will give you a proper, solemn burial. You will find peace." Gao Bing stopped, staring at him. In her empty eyes, there seemed to be a flicker of hesitation. Promise me," she said, her voice softening slightly. "I promise," Chen Shenzhai said seriously. "My personal integrity guarantees it. You will rest in peace." Gao Bing looked at them for a long moment, then slowly dissolved into the air, leaving only the sound of the wind and the quiet water. 3 days later, at an old cemetery in the suburbs of Shanghai, a discreet burial ceremony was held. Besides Chen Shenzhai, Li Anh, and Wang Zhiqiang, Qin Ryu Chen and a revered monk were also present. Gao Bing's skeleton was placed in a simple wooden coffin, covered with a white cloth. The monk chanted prayers for the deceased. Qin Ryu Chen knelt, bowing his head in repentance on behalf of his ancestors. "Maiden Gao Bing, the sins of the Qin family led you to this suffering. Today we repent, hoping you will forgive and find peace." Li Anh also knelt, burning incense. "Maiden Gao Bing, please release your resentment. Those who harmed you have long since passed away. Please rest in peace and no longer haunt this world." The ceremony lasted nearly 2 hours. Finally, the coffin was lowered into the grave and properly buried. A stone tablet was erected, bearing the two characters, Gao Bing. When everything was finished, it was late afternoon. The golden sunlight shone down on the grave, creating an unusually peaceful scene. Li Anh stood before the grave, looking at the tablet. She felt a lightness in her heart, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. No more river smell, no more chilling sensation. Everything had passed. Chen Shenzhai walked up beside her. "How do you feel?" "Much better," Li Anh smiled. "Thank you for your help." "It's my job," Chen Shenzhai smiled back. "But you should be careful. The spiritual world is vast, full of many mysteries." Li Anh nodded. She looked at the tombstone one last time, then turned and left. When Li Anh returned to her shop, it was already dark. She opened the door and stepped inside. The room was still the same, everything intact, yet something felt different. The air inside felt lighter, no longer the oppressive, heavy feeling from before. She went upstairs to her bedroom. Everything was normal. She decided to check the cabinet where the Qipao had once been stored. She opened the cabinet door. The paper box was still there, but when she opened it, it was empty. The Qipao was gone. It had vanished, as if it had never existed. Li Anh smiled. Perhaps when Gao Bing found peace, the dress, her vessel of resentment, had also dissipated. She closed the cabinet and went downstairs to the shop. Tonight, she would finally have a good night's sleep for the first time in days. But as she was about to turn off the lights, the doorbell suddenly rang. Ding, ding, ding. Li Anh stopped, her heart quickening. Who would come at this hour? She hesitated, then opened the door. Outside stood a middle-aged woman, her hair streaked with white, her face pale. She held an old cloth bag. "Sister, can you mend a dress?" Her voice was hoarse. Li Anh looked at her, a sense of familiarity suddenly rising within her. "Isn't this? I came here a few days ago," the woman said, "but now I need to pick up my dress." Li Anh swallowed. You're the one who brought the dark blue Qipao, aren't you?" The woman nodded. "Yes, that was my daughter's dress, I heard you. You helped her find peace. I came to thank you." She held out the cloth bag. "This is a small gift. Please accept it." Li Anh took the bag. Inside was a stack of money and a letter. She opened the letter and read it. It was a heartfelt thank you from Gao Bing's mother, who had secretly followed everything and finally saw her daughter find peace. "Thank you, sister," the woman said, tears welling up. "Thank you for helping my daughter." Li Anh didn't know what to say. She just took the woman's hand and squeezed it tightly. The two stood in silence in the night under the yellow light of the shop. After a while, the woman left. Li Anh watched her figure fade into the darkness. She sighed, then turned and closed the door. Tonight, there were no more ghosts, only peace. A year passed. The silk brocade pavilion continued to operate as usual. Li Anh still tailored and received customers. Life returned to its normal rhythm, but there was one change. She no longer accepted old, unknown garments for alteration. Whenever a customer brought in an antique, she would inquire carefully about its history. If she felt something was amiss, she would politely decline. Chen Zhai occasionally stopped by for tea and conversation. He had helped her greatly, and the two had become good friends. One afternoon, as she was sewing, Li Anh heard the doorbell chime. A young girl entered, holding a bag. "Can you make me a Qipao, sister?" the girl asked. Li Anh looked at her and smiled. "Of course, what style would you like?" "An antique style, like the Qipaos from the Republican era. I really love them." Li Anh nodded, took out paper and pencil, and began to sketch. As she drew, she thought of Gao Bing, the girl who had died for love and had found peace. Perhaps now, somewhere, Gao Bing was resting and the Qipao, the symbol of her resentment, had vanished forever. Li Anh smiled and continued her work. Life went on, carrying both sorrow and memories. But in the corner of the cabinet where the haunted dress once lay, a crimson peony bloomed from nowhere. Haunted apartment building. Xiao House stood on the 12th floor balcony, looking down at Kowloon Street, which was sinking into the night. The strong wind blew, tossing his long, graying hair. Below, people moved like tiny ants, none looking up. He was 53 this year, once a shining movie star in Hong Kong in the 80s, famous for his roles as Jiangxi in Vampires. But now, no one remembered him. Age, alcohol, and bad choices had turned him into a washed-up failure, burdened by crushing debt. "Perhaps this is for the best," Xiao Hao whispered, stepping onto the railing. "Just one more step, just let go, and everything will end. No more pain, no more mockery, no more bitter sense of failure." He closed his eyes, preparing to step out. "Don't," a voice echoed behind him. Xiao Hao startled, turning around. An old man stood at the rooftop door, holding a walking stick. His face was deeply wrinkled, but his eyes shone with a strange brilliance. Who are you?" Xiao Hao asked. "I live on the 13th floor." The old man stepped closer. "I saw you come up here this afternoon. I knew what you were planning." "So what?" Xiao Hao said bitterly. "Are you going to stop me? My life has no more meaning. Dying is easy, living is hard." "Living is hard," the old man said, "but if you die here, you won't find peace. Your soul will be forever trapped in this building." Xiao Hao scoffed. "Superstition, I don't believe in such things." "You don't believe?" The old man looked at him, his gaze deepening. "Then, why did you choose this butterfly building for your suicide? Don't you know this place is cursed?" Xiao Hao fell silent. In truth, he had heard rumors about this building. Butterfly Building, the oldest apartment complex in Kowloon, built in 1963, was 65 years old. Over the years, at least 30 people had died in the building: suicides, murders, deaths from illness. People said their ghosts still roamed the dark hallways, but he didn't believe it, or rather, he didn't care. "Even if there are ghosts, it doesn't matter," Xiao Hao said. "I just want to die. Dying anywhere is the same." "It's not the same," the old man shook his head. "If you die here, you will become a part of the curse. Your soul will be bound, unable to reincarnate. Do you want that?" Xiao Hao hesitated. A part of him was still afraid of death, afraid of what lay beyond. The old man stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I can help you, but on one condition." "What condition?" "You must live in this building and help me investigate the secrets it hides." Xiao Hao looked at the old man, not understanding. "Investigate what?" "Why so many people have died in this building? why the ghosts refuse to leave, and what is hidden in the basement. The wind blew strongly, icy cold. Xiao Hao felt a chill run down his spine. He looked down at the abyss of death, then back at the old man, at a chance. Finally, he stepped down from the railing. "All right, I'll stay." The old man smiled. "Good. From today, you are the guardian of Butterfly Building." 3 days later, Xiao Hao moved into apartment 804 on the 8th floor. It had been vacant for a long time. No one dared to rent it. The reason was simple. 5 years ago, a family of 4 had died together there. The police concluded it was a murder-suicide, but the motive remained a mystery. The apartment was small and narrow, with only one bedroom, a living room, and a kitchen. The walls were peeling, the floor cracked, and the light from the old light bulbs was dim. But for Xiao Hao, it was better than the streets. The old man, who called himself Taoist Master Ma, had given him a key and an old notebook. This records all the abnormal deaths at Butterfly Building from 1963 until now, Taoist Master Ma said. "Read it carefully. It will help you understand the curse." Xiao Hao flipped through the notebook. Each page detailed a death, date, time, floor, method, and strange phenomena that occurred afterward. The more he read, the colder he felt. The first case, 1965, a man jumped from the 9th floor. Afterward, neighbors often heard weeping at night. The second case, 1972, a woman was stabbed to death by her husband in the bathroom. From then on, the faucet in that apartment would turn itself on at 3:00 a.m. every night. The third case, 1980, a child was abandoned and starved to death in a 6th-floor apartment. Afterward, many heard children crying in the hallway. The list went on, 30 cases, 30 souls, 30 resentments. "Why are you investigating these things?" Xiao Hao asked. Taoist Master Ma looked into the distance. "Because I also live here, and I know that if we don't find the source of the curse, this building will forever be shrouded in darkness. Sooner or later, it will collapse, and everyone living here will die." "So what is the source?" "I don't know yet, but I suspect it's related to the basement. That place has been locked since 1963. No one has been able to enter." Xiao Hao looked down at the floor. The basement, a forgotten place, concealing so many secrets. "So what should I do?" "Observe, record, and if you see anything unusual, report it to me immediately." Taoist Master Ma stood up. "Ah, and one more thing, don't leave the apartment after midnight. That's when they appear." The ghosts in the building. Having said that, Taoist Master Ma walked out the door, leaving Xiao Hao alone in the dimly lit apartment. The first night in apartment 804 passed quite quietly. Xiao Hao lay on the old bed, staring at the cracked ceiling. He tried to sleep but couldn't. Every small sound made him jump, the wind whistling through the door crack, water dripping in the sink, the floor creaking when someone walked by in the hallway. The clock chimed 12 times. Xiao Hao lay still, listening. The apartment was enveloped in silence, but it was a terrifying silence, as if the entire building was holding its breath, waiting for something. Then he heard footsteps, slow and steady, coming from the end of the hallway, drawing closer. The footsteps weren't like normal human steps, they were hollow, as if someone was walking on air. Xiao Hao sat up, his heart pounding. He looked towards the door, a faint yellow light from the hallway seeping through the crack. The dark shadow of a person was moving. The shadow stopped in front of apartment 804. Silence. Xiao Hao held his breath. He heard breathing a hoarse, heavy breath like someone drowning. Then 3 knocks sounded on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Who is it?" Xiao Hao asked, his voice trembling. There was no answer, only the heavy breathing outside. Knock, knock, knock. The knocking sounded again. This time it was louder, as if someone was using all their strength to pound on the door. Xiao Hao stood up and slowly walked to the door. He looked through the peephole. There was no one in the hallway, but the knocking continued. Knock, knock, knock. Go away," Xiao Hao whispered, backing away. The knocking stopped. Then the dark shadow outside the door slowly moved. It glided away, disappearing into the darkness. Xiao Hao fell to the floor, panting, cold sweat running down his back. He knew he had encountered one of the building's ghosts, and this was only the first night. The next morning, Xiao Hao decided to explore the building. He stepped into the hallway and looked around. The hallway was dark, with only a few light bulbs still working. The paint was peeling from the walls, revealing the old bricks underneath. The smell of dampness and mold was strong. He walked down the stairs 7th floor, 6th floor, 5th floor. Each floor was the same. Old apartments, doors tightly closed, not a sound. When he reached the 3rd floor, he met a middle-aged woman hanging clothes on the balcony. She looked at him, her expression cold. "Are you the new resident?" she asked. "Yes, I'm on the 8th floor," Xiao Hao replied. She stared at him, then shook her head. "Apartment 804? You're a brave one. No one dares to live in that apartment." "I know, but I'm not afraid." She scoffed. "Not afraid? Wait until night, you'll see. That apartment isn't clean." "What do you mean, not clean?" "The old family all died there. 4 people, parents and 2 children. People say their souls are still in the apartment, refusing to leave." Xiao Hao swallowed. Do you know why they died?" She shook her head. "No one knows. The police said the father killed his wife and children, then committed suicide. But I don't believe it. That man was so gentle, he couldn't have done such a thing." "So what do you think happened?" She looked around, lowering her voice. "I think this building drove them mad, just like it did to many others." "The building drove them mad?" "Exactly," she nodded. "Don't you know? This butterfly building was built on an old cemetery. Years ago, when they dug the foundations, they found many human bones, but they built anyway. And since then, this building has never been at peace." Xiao Hao felt a chill run down his spine. Have you ever seen anything strange?" "Many things," she said. "Every night I hear footsteps in the hallway. Sometimes I see shadows passing by, and once I saw a child standing at the end of the hallway, staring at me. But when I blinked, it vanished." She turned back to hanging clothes. "If you want to live peacefully here, don't be too curious. Don't ask too many questions. And especially don't go to the basement." "Why?" "Because if you go down there, you'll never come back." Xiao Hao returned to his apartment, his head full of thoughts. A building built on a cemetery, 30 deaths, a locked basement. All pointed to one thing, a curse. He opened the notebook Taoist Master Ma had given him and reread each page. Among them was a detailed entry about the murder in apartment 804 5 years ago. May 15, 2018. The Liang family found dead in apartment 804. Father Liang Zhenzing, 42. Mother Li Min, 38. Son Liang Xiao Long, 12. Daughter Liang Xiao Qi, 8. Police concluded Liang Zhenzing stabbed his wife and 2 children with a knife, then hanged himself. Motive unknown. Below that was a note in red ink. But neighbors said that before their deaths, the entire family often heard strange noises in the walls. Liang Zhenzing once told others that someone was calling him from the basement. Xiao Hao read that line over and over. Someone calling him from the basement. So what was down there? He decided to look for more clues in the apartment. He searched every nook and cranny, wardrobe under the bed, attic. Finally, he found a small diary hidden in a crack in the wall behind the refrigerator. The diary was old, pages yellowed. He opened it and read. It was Liang Zhenzing's diary. June 1, 2018. We just moved into apartment 804. The rent was surprisingly cheap. The landlord said the apartment had been vacant for a long time and needed someone to live in it. I didn't think much of it and took it right away. June 10, last night I heard strange noises, as if someone was scratching at the wall. I got up to check, didn't see anything. Min said it was rats. June 20, the noises grew louder and louder, not just at night, but during the day too. Xiao Long said he heard his name being called from inside the wall. I told him not to be afraid, that it was just his imagination. Date unknown, I can't take it anymore. The voice keeps echoing in my head. Come down, come to the basement. I don't know whose voice it is, but it keeps repeating like a hypnosis. July 12, last night I dreamed of a long road leading down to the basement. At the end of the road was a door. Behind the door, something was waiting for me. I woke up, drenched in sweat. My wife asked why, but I didn't dare tell her. July 15, today I can no longer control myself. The call has completely consumed my mind. I must do something. Forgive me, forgive me. The diary ended there. Xiao Hao trembled and closed the notebook. Liang Zhenzing had been manipulated by something from the basement, leading him to kill his entire family. And now, was that voice coming for him? That afternoon, Xiao Hao decided to go find Taoist Master Ma. He needed to tell the old man about the diary. But when he went up to the 13th floor, Taoist Master Ma's apartment was closed. He knocked, but no one answered. Master Ma went to Shenzhen, a neighbor said. He'll be back at the end of the week. Xiao Hao was disappointed, so he had to investigate on his own. He decided to go down to the first floor, where the door to the basement was located. The first floor of Butterfly Building was a public area, with mailboxes, a notice board, and a small management office. Xiao Hao walked in, looking around the dim room. There was only an old desk and a few messy folders. He walked to the desk and flipped through the folders. They were resident records from 1963 until now. He found the year 1963, the year the building was constructed. The first page read, Butterfly Building completed on May 1, 1963. Contractor, Van Dat Construction Company. Investor, Huang Zihao. Huang Zihao? Xiao Hao memorized the name. Perhaps he knew something. He continued flipping. In the records was an old photograph, a picture of the building's groundbreaking ceremony. In the photo, a group of men stood in front of a large foundation pit. They were smiling, unaware that the place they were building would become a haunted building. But one detail in the photo caught Xiao Hao's attention. In the corner of the photo, a man wasn't smiling. He stood apart from the group, his face serious, looking down into the foundation pit with an anxious expression. Below the photo was a caption. From left to right, Huang Zihao, investor, Li Jianguo, engineer, Chen Xiyin, builder. Far right, Old Zhang, gatekeeper. Old Zhang, the anxious-looking man in the photo. Xiao Hao wondered if he knew anything. Suddenly, he heard a noise from behind. He turned around. In the corner of the room was an old iron door with a sign on it, Danger, do not enter. It was the door to the basement. Xiao Hao walked closer. The door was tightly locked with a large, rusted padlock. He tried to pull it, but it wouldn't open. But when he put his ear to the door, he heard something. The sound of dripping water, and in the distance, a faint whisper, come down, come down. Xiao Hao flinched, his heart pounding. The voice was just like the one in Liang Zhenzing's diary. It was calling him. Xiao Hao left the first floor, his head full of thoughts. He needed to find someone who knew about the building's history, especially about the basement. He remembered the name from the photo, Old Zhang, the old gatekeeper. He went back to the management office and searched through the files for any information about Old Zhang. Luckily, he found a note. Zhang Fucheng, gatekeeper from 1963 to 1985. After retirement, he moved to living in the Dai Fa area, Kuhoa Building, Floor B. Xiao Hao wrote down the address. That afternoon, he took a bus to the Dai Fa area. Kuhoa Building was also an old apartment complex, but it looked much brighter than Butterfly Building. He went up to the 4th floor and found Old Zhang's apartment. The door opened, revealing a thin old man with white hair. His face was full of wrinkles, but his eyes were still bright. Are you? The old man asked. I am Xiao Hao. I currently live in Butterfly Building. I want to ask you about the history of that building. Hearing the name Butterfly Building, Old Zhang's expression changed. He looked at Xiao Hao for a long time, then nodded. Come in. The apartment inside was clean, with the scent of fragrant tea. Old Zhang invited him to sit and poured him tea. What do you want to know about Butterfly Building? I want to know about the basement, why it's locked, and what's down there. Old Zhang was silent for a moment, then sighed. I knew someone would ask about this sooner or later, but I didn't think it would be so soon. You know something. I know everything, Old Zhang said. I'm the only one still alive from 1963. I witnessed everything, from the foundation laying to the locking of the basement. He stood up, went to a cabinet, and took out an old paper box. Inside was a stack of photos and documents. He pulled out a black and white photo and handed it to Xiao Hao. This is a photo taken when they dug the foundations. Look closely. Xiao Hao looked at the photo. It was a deep foundation pit with many human bones at the bottom. The skeletons lay piled on top of each other, some intact, some shattered. A cemetery, he whispered. Exactly, old Zhang nodded. Before 1963, that place was a cemetery from the Qing dynasty. Many people who died of plague were buried there. But Huang Zihao, the investor, didn't care. He just wanted to build the house quickly and make a profit. So those bones. We were ordered to fill them in, not to dig them out, not to perform any rituals for the dead. Just pour concrete over them and continue building, old Zhang said, his voice full of regret. I tried to stop them. I told Huang Zihao that doing so would bring disaster, but he wouldn't listen. Then after the building was completed, strange things began to happen. The first worker to die was Li Jianguo, the chief engineer. He fell from the 10th floor in a strange accident. Then Chen Shiyin, the builder, went mad, jumped into the basement, and died. A year later, Huang Zihao also died, stabbed to death in his office on the 1st floor. Zihao felt a chill run down his spine. So what's in the basement? Old Zhang looked at him, his expression serious. The basement is where the most human bones were buried. When we built, we poured concrete over them, but it wasn't very thick. And there's something strange. Every time I went down to the basement, I felt like someone was watching me. The air down there was as cold as ice, even when it was hot outside. After Huang Zihao died, we decided to lock the basement. I was the one who locked it, and I swore I would never open it again. But do you know why the ghosts refused to find peace? Old Zhang shook his head. I only know that when people die without a proper burial, their souls wander endlessly. And the ghosts in the basement, they are angry because they were forgotten, buried under concrete. They want revenge. Zihao looked down at his teacup, thinking, so is there any way to resolve it? Only one way, old Zhang said. You must open the basement and perform a ritual for the souls down there. But that is very dangerous. Once opened, the ghosts will flood out, and no one knows what will happen. That evening, Zihao returned to Butterfly Building with his head full of thoughts. He needed to talk to Taoist Master Ma about the plan to open the basement, but the old man hadn't returned yet. He had to wait until the weekend. That night he couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The noises started again, footsteps, heavy breathing, and in the distance, someone crying. The clock chimed 2 a.m. Zihao sat up, deciding to go out into the hallway to see. He opened the door and stepped outside. The hallway was dark, with only a weak light bulb at the very end. He walked slowly, looking around. The apartment doors were all tightly closed, but from one apartment 806 light seeped through the crack under the door. Zihao walked over and peered through the crack. Inside, a little girl about 8 years old was sitting on the floor, playing with a doll. She wore a long white dress, her hair hung loose, her face pale. Little girl, Zihao called softly, what are you doing? The girl didn't turn around. She just continued playing with her doll, humming a soft song. Moonlight bright on desolate land. Who has a mother, who has a father? Only I sit here alone, playing till old. Her voice was hoarse, as if she had cried too much. Zihao felt a chill run down his spine. He knew that apartment 806 had been vacant for a long time. No one lived there. So who was this little girl? Who are you? He asked, his voice trembling. The girl stopped. Slowly she turned her face to look at him. Zihao screamed. The little girl's face was no longer a face. It was just a black hole, no eyes, no nose, only a wide, gaping mouth as if wailing. Uncle, have you seen my mother? Her voice was filled with pain. Where did my mother go? Why did she abandon me? Zihao backed away, wanting to run, but the little girl stood up and walked out of the apartment. She moved very quickly, and in a blink, she was in front of him. Uncle, you must help me find my mother, she said, her voice weeping. I've waited for my mother for so long. Zihao felt an icy cold hand touch his. He looked down at the little girl's hand, tiny, pale, like a corpse. Help me, she said. Then she vanished, dissolving into thin air. Zihao fell to the floor, panting. His entire body was drenched in cold sweat. He knew he had just encountered one of the building's ghosts, probably the soul of an abandoned child who had died there. He had to do something. He had to help these souls find peace. The next morning, Zihao found a notice slipped under his door. It was an announcement for a resident meeting to be held that evening on the first floor. He was curious. In all his time there, he had never heard of a meeting. That evening, he went down to the first floor. The management office had been cleaned up with a few extra chairs arranged. About 10 residents were sitting, waiting. Xiao Hao looked around. Most were elderly people who had lived there for a long time. They looked at him with strange eyes, as if evaluating him. A middle-aged man, seemingly the host, stood up. "Hello, everyone. Today we are meeting to discuss the condition of the building." "What condition?" a woman asked. "As you know, recently there have been many strange occurrences. Noises at night, strange figures, and some people say they've seen ghosts." Everyone fell silent, then an old woman spoke up. "Not just recently. This building has always had ghosts, we all know that." "True," the man nodded. "But the problem is that the phenomena are becoming more and more severe. Some people have decided to move out. If this continues, the building will be empty." "So what should we do?" another person asked. "We must perform a ritual for the deceased," the man said. "Invite a Taoist priest to perform a ceremony for the souls to find peace." "But where would we hold the ceremony?" the old woman asked. "There are dozens of ghosts in this building. We can't perform a ceremony for all of them." "We must perform the ceremony at the source," the man said, his voice serious. "In the basement." Hearing that, everyone fell silent. A woman spoke up. "The basement? No, that's not possible. It's been locked since 1985. If we open it, what will happen?" "Precisely why we must perform the ceremony," the man said. "If we don't address the root cause, the ghosts will never be at peace." Xiao Hao stood up. "I agree, we must open the basement." Everyone turned to look at him. The man asked, "Who are you?" "I am Xiao Hao. I live in apartment 804. I have investigated this building, and I know that the basement is where many human bones are buried. If we don't perform a ceremony for them, we will never be at peace." An old man shook his head. "Too dangerous. Who will go down there to perform the ceremony? No one dares." "I will go down," Xiao Hao said. "Together with Taoist Master Ma, we will do it." The man looked at him, then nodded. "All right. If you have the courage, we will support you, but we must wait for Taoist Master Ma to return." The meeting concluded. Xiao Hao returned to his apartment, filled with determination. He knew he had gone too far to turn back. He had to complete the task, free the ghosts and free himself. At the end of the week, Taoist Master Ma returned. Xiao Hao immediately went to see him, recounting everything that had happened: the diary, the encounter with old Zhang, the ghost girl, and the decision to open the basement. Taoist Master Ma listened, his expression serious. When Xiao Hao finished, he nodded. "You did correctly. It's time to resolve this problem." "So when will we go down to the basement?" Xiao Hao asked. "Tomorrow night, the 15th lunar day, the full moon night when yin energy is strongest. That is the best time to perform the ritual for the deceased. But isn't the full moon night dangerous?" "Dangerous, yes," Taoist Master Ma said, "but also the easiest time to connect with the other world. We must take advantage of it." He stood up, went to an old chest, and took out a stack of talismans and spiritual items. "Today, you must prepare yourself mentally. Tomorrow night, we will face very terrifying things." "I am ready," Xiao Hao said. Taoist Master Ma looked at him and smiled. "Good, but you must remember one thing: no matter what happens, do not leave my side. If you get lost in the basement, you will never find your way out." That night, Xiao Hao couldn't sleep. He sat on his bed, looking out the window. The full moon shone brightly in the sky, illuminating Butterfly Building and casting strange shadows. He thought about what was about to happen: opening the basement, confronting angry ghosts, performing a ritual. All of it was dangerous, but also the only way to resolve the curse. The clock chimed 12. Suddenly, he heard knocking on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Xiao Hao startled. Who would come at this hour? He walked to the door and looked through the peephole. No one was outside, but the knocking continued. Knock, knock, knock. "Who is it?" he asked. "It's me," a voice from outside resonated. It was a hoarse man's voice, like his own. Xiao Hao felt a chill run down his spine. "Who are you?" "I am you," the voice replied. I am Xiao Hao, open the door. No, that's impossible, Xiao Hao backed away. I am you, the voice continued, echoing from the future. If you go to the basement, you will die, you will become me, don't go down there. Xiao Hao trembled. Was this a warning or just a trick of the ghost? I'm warning you, the voice continued. The basement doesn't just hold ghosts. There's something else, something very dangerous. It's waiting for someone to go down so it can escape. What something? The Demon King, the voice whispered. The leader of all ghosts. It has been sealed in the basement since the Qing dynasty. If you open the basement, you will unleash it. And then, not just this building, but the entire neighborhood will be engulfed in disaster. Xiao Hao swallowed. So what should I do? Don't go down, run, leave this building, live a normal life. But Xiao Hao knew he couldn't run. If he ran, the souls would continue to suffer, and this building would forever be shrouded in darkness. No, he said firmly. I will go down, I will resolve this. The voice fell silent, then a hoarse laugh echoed. Then welcome to hell. The laughter faded, and there was no more sound outside the door. Xiao Hao sat on the floor, breathing heavily. He knew that tomorrow he would face the greatest challenge of his life, and he might never return. The next morning, Taoist Master Ma and Xiao Hao met on the first floor. The old man carried a large bag filled with items, candles, talismans, scriptures, and an antique peach wood sword. This is a demon-slaying sword, he said, handing the sword to Xiao Hao. If you encounter danger, use it to defend yourself. Xiao Hao held the sword, feeling its weight. It was heavier than he thought, as if filled with energy. We will need the key to open the basement door, Taoist Master Ma said. I have contacted the management, and they have agreed to lend it. The manager, a thin old man, handed them the key, his face filled with worry. Be careful, gentlemen. No one has gone down there since 1985. No one knows what it's like down there. We know, Taoist Master Ma said. Thank you. They walked to the basement door, an old iron door, heavily rusted. Taoist Master Ma inserted the key into the lock. He twisted, but the lock wouldn't open. Too rusty, he said. We'll need lubricant. Xiao Hao took a bottle of oil from his small bag and poured it into the lock. After a few minutes, the lock began to loosen. Taoist Master Ma twisted hard, and finally, the door opened. A blast of icy, cold air rushed out from within. A heavy, damp smell mixed with a very unpleasant, putrid odor. Xiao Hao turned on his flashlight and shone it down. Inside was a steep staircase, its steps covered in dust and moss, the bottom invisible. Let's go, Taoist Master Ma said. Step onto the first step. Xiao Hao followed, his heart pounding. They slowly descended, each step creaking. The air grew colder and heavier as they went deeper. After about 20 steps, they reached the bottom. In front of them was a long hallway, its concrete walls peeling, the ceiling low. The flashlight beam created strange, dancing shadows. Here it is, Taoist Master Ma said. The basement of Butterfly Building, where so many secrets are buried. They walked into the hallway, their footsteps echoing in the empty space. Xiao Hao felt as if something was watching them, a heavy sensation pressing on his shoulders. And in the distance, a faint whisper, "Come here, come here." The basement hallway stretched on endlessly. Taoist Master Ma and Xiao Hao walked slowly, their flashlights sweeping across every corner of the walls. The concrete was peeling in many places, revealing long cracks like roots. Water dripped from the ceiling, forming black puddles on the floor. Be careful, Taoist Master Ma said. The floor might not be stable. They continued walking. After about 20 meters, the hallway split into 3 paths. Each path was pitch black, leading to an unknown destination. Which way should we go? Xiao Hao asked. Taoist Master Ma stood still, closing his eyes. He seemed to be sensing something. After a moment, he pointed to the middle path. This way. I feel the strongest yin energy here. They entered the middle path. The air grew colder and colder, to the point where their breath turned to white mist. Xiao Hao felt goosebumps all over his body, and the whispers grew clearer and clearer. Come here, we are waiting. We have waited for a long time. Do you hear it? Xiao Hao asked. Yes, Taoist Master Ma nodded. Those are the voices of the ghosts. They know we've come. At the end of the hallway was a large iron door. The door was heavily rusted. Ancient Chinese characters were carved into it. Taoist Master Ma shone his light on it and read, "Seal of the gate. No man may enter." "This is it," Taoist Master Ma said. "Behind this door is where the most human bones are buried, and also where the Demon King is sealed." "So we have to open it?" Xiao Hao asked. "No need to open it." Taoist Master Ma took out a stack of talismans. "We will perform the ritual here. The energy from the ceremony will penetrate the door, helping the souls inside find peace." He began to prepare. He placed candles, lit incense, and arranged talismans in a circle in front of the door. Then he told Xiao how to kneel, holding the peach wood sword. "You must hold this sword throughout the ceremony," Taoist Master Ma said. "If any ghosts attack, use the sword to drive them away." Xiao Hao knelt, gripping the sword tightly. Taoist Master Ma began to chant. His voice echoed in the dark space, each incantation like a spreading wave. Xiao Hao felt the air around them change. It became heavier but also warmer. The candles began to flicker and the incense smoke curled up, forming strange shapes. And from behind the iron door there were sounds, wailing, crying, pleading. "Save us, please save us, we want out. We want to see the light. It's been too long, we've been trapped too long." Xiao Hao felt tears welling up. Those ghosts, they weren't evil spirits. They were just abandoned souls, longing to find peace. Taoist Master Ma continued chanting, his voice growing louder. The light from the candles began to spread, illuminating the entire hallway, and then figures began to emerge. They were ghosts. They wore ancient clothes, had long hair, and pale faces. They stood still, looking at Taoist Master Ma and Xiao Hao with eyes full of longing. "Please, please help us," a ghost said. Taoist Master Ma raised his hand, his voice stern. "You have been dead for a long time. Why do you not seek reincarnation? What do you gain by lingering in this world?" We cannot go," a ghost said. "We are bound, pulled back by something every time we try to leave." "Who?" Taoist Master Ma asked. The ghost pointed to the iron door. It's in there, the Demon King. It won't let us go. It wants us to stay to nourish its power." Taoist Master Ma frowned. "The Demon King is still alive. It's not dead." "It is sealed but not dead," the ghost said, "and every year it grows stronger. Sooner or later, it will break the seal and escape." Xiao Hao listened, feeling terrified. So what should we do?" Taoist Master Ma was silent for a moment, then he said, "There is only one way. We must destroy the Demon King. Only then can these souls find peace. But how can we destroy it? It's behind the sealed door." "We must open the door," Taoist Master Ma said, "and face it." Taoist Master Ma stood up and walked to the iron door. He took out a yellow talisman, pasted it on the door, and began to chant. "Heaven and earth are vast and boundless. The universe is primordial chaos. Supreme Lord Laozi, act quickly as per my command." Golden light began to emanate from the talisman. The iron door vibrated, emitting a high-pitched screech, then slowly, it began to open. Xiao Hao stood up, gripping the peachwood sword tightly, his heart pounding. Behind the door, the darkness was black as ink. Nothing could be seen. The door opened completely, and a blast of cold wind rushed out, strong enough to extinguish all the candles, leaving only the weak light of the flashlight. Taoist Master Ma stepped in first, Xiao Hao followed. They entered a large room. The ceiling was about 5 meters high, there were no windows, and the floor was stone. In the middle of the room was a large pit. Taoist Master Ma shone his light into the pit. Below were human bones, hundreds, perhaps thousands of skeletons piled on top of each other, some intact, some shattered into fragments. "This is the cemetery," Taoist Master Ma said, his voice heavy. "They dug the foundations, found all these bones, and then poured concrete over them, but the concrete wasn't thick, so the yin energy still seeped through." Xiao Hao looked down into the pit, feeling nauseous. So where is the Demon King?" "It's here," a voice echoed through the room. They jumped, turning around. From the shadows in the corner of the room, a figure emerged. It was a tall man in a black robe, his face pale as a corpse. His eyes were blood red, looking at them with hatred. "The Demon King," Taoist Master Ma said. "Indeed," the Demon King sneered. "I am the leader of all the ghosts here. I have waited for over 60 years, waiting for someone to open this door, and finally you have come. What do you want? Taoist Master Ma asked. Freedom, the Demon King said. I was sealed during the Qing dynasty by a powerful Taoist, but the seal has weakened over time. And now, with your appearance, I can break it completely. I will not let you escape, Taoist Master Ma said, taking out a large talisman. I will destroy you here and free these souls. The Demon King laughed loudly. Destroy me, an old, frail human like you? Do you think you can do it? He raised his hand, and a blast of dark wind swept forward, blowing away the talisman in Taoist Master Ma's hand. The old man staggered back, almost falling. Xiao Hao quickly ran to support him. Are you all right, Master? I'm fine. Taoist Master Ma stood firm, looking at the Demon King. But I cannot face it alone. You must help me. I'm just an ordinary person. How can I help? The sword in your hand, Taoist Master Ma pointed to the peach wood sword. It can suppress the Demon King, but you must be brave. You must stab it directly in the heart. Xiao Hao looked at the sword, then at the Demon King, who was approaching, an eerie smile on his lips. A human wants to kill me? The Demon King said. Interesting, let's see. The Demon King suddenly lunged, swift as lightning. His hand reached out, claws sharp as razors. Xiao Hao raised his sword to block. Sword and claws clashed, emitting sparks. The powerful force sent Xiao Hao flying backward, slamming into the wall. He felt a sharp pain, but didn't release the sword. Taoist Master Ma took out a stack of talismans and threw them towards the Demon King. The talismans burst into flames in midair, forming a circle of fire around him. The Demon King roared, trying to break the circle. Quickly, Taoist Master Ma yelled. The fire circle will only hold it for a few seconds. Xiao Hao stood up and ran towards the Demon King. He raised his sword, aiming straight for its heart, but the Demon King turned, swung its hand powerfully, sending the sword flying away. You think it's that easy? The Demon King sneered. I have lived for hundreds of years. I have killed countless people. A weak human like you cannot do anything to me. He raised his hand, and a surge of dark energy enveloped Xiao Hao. He felt it hard to breathe, as if someone was strangling him. He knelt down, struggling for air. Taoist Master Ma ran over, swinging his hand at the dark energy, but he too was pushed back, falling to the floor. Too weak, the Demon King said. You cannot defeat me. But at that moment, the ghosts from the hallway began to appear. They entered the room, looking at the Demon King with angry eyes. You have imprisoned us for too long, a ghost said. Now it's time to pay. The Demon King turned, his expression changing. You dare defy me. We are no longer afraid of you, the ghost said. We will destroy you together. Hundreds of ghosts swarmed towards the Demon King. They clung to him, pulling him down. The Demon King roared, struggling to resist, but there were too many. He couldn't fight them all. Xiao Hao saw his chance. He crawled to where the peach wood sword lay, picked it up, then stood and ran towards the Demon King. This is for all who died unjustly, he shouted, plunging the sword straight into the Demon King's heart. The sword pierced through. The Demon King's mouth gaped open, his eyes wide. He looked at Xiao Hao, his voice hoarse. You dare? Then light erupted from the sword, a brilliant golden light spreading throughout the room. The Demon King screamed, his body beginning to disintegrate, turning into ashes. No, it can't be. I have lived for hundreds of years. I cannot die. But the light didn't stop. It consumed every part of the Demon King's body, until nothing remained but a pile of black ashes on the floor. The room fell silent, the light from the sword slowly fading. Xiao Hao stood there, panting, still clutching the sword. Taoist Master Ma stood up and walked over. You did it! You destroyed the Demon King. Xiao Hao looked at the ghosts around them. They stood silently, looking at him with grateful eyes. Thank you, a ghost said. We are finally free. Slowly, the ghosts began to dissipate. Their bodies transformed into light, flying upwards, passing through the ceiling, going to where they belonged. Xiao Hao watched them, his heart filled with emotion. He had done it. He had freed the ghosts. He had completed his mission. Taoist Master Ma placed a hand on his shoulder. Let's go home. They left the basement, returning to the first floor. As they stepped out into the sunlight, Xiao Hao felt reborn. The air was fresh and warm, completely different from the cold darkness of the basement. The residents of the building had gathered in the lobby, waiting. When they saw them emerge, everyone applauded. "You did it," the manager said. "We feel so different. The air in the building is much lighter." "Indeed," an old woman said. "Last night, for the first time in years, I slept soundly, undisturbed." Taoist Master Ma nodded. "The ghosts have found peace. This building will be at rest from now on." But Xiao Hao knew the work wasn't finished. He turned to Taoist Master Ma. "Master, we must close the basement door again and perform a larger ritual for all the people who have died in this building." "Yes," Taoist Master Ma agreed. "I will take care of that, but you must stay and help me. You witnessed it all." "I will stay," Xiao Hao said. "This is my home now." A year passed. Butterfly Building had completely transformed. No more strange occurrences, no more noises at night, no more strange figures in the hallways. Many new people moved in and the building became more lively. Xiao Hao still lived in apartment 804. He had found a new job, working as the building's gatekeeper, replacing old Zhang, who had retired long ago. Every night, he patrolled the floors, ensuring everything was peaceful. Taoist Master Ma occasionally visited, drinking tea and chatting. He praised Xiao Hao for doing a good job. One evening, as he sat on the rooftop, Xiao Hao looked out at Kowloon Street. Lights sparkled and people bustled about. Life continued despite all that had happened. He thought about the past year, from when he planned to commit suicide to when he met Taoist Master Ma, then the journey into the basement, confronting the Demon King. It all felt like a long dream, but he knew it wasn't a dream, it was reality, and he had overcome it. "Xiao Hao," a voice resonated behind him. He turned around. It was the little girl he had once met, the ghost child from apartment 806. But now, her face was bright, her smile innocent. You found peace?" he asked. "Not yet," she said. "I'm still here, but I'm no longer angry. I just want to say thank you, Uncle. Thank you for freeing us." "You don't have to thank me. I just did the right thing." The little girl smiled, then slowly dissolved. Moonlight shone down on where she stood, creating a faint streak of light. Xiao Hao sighed, then turned back to look at the city. He knew his new life had begun. He was no longer a movie star, no longer a man contemplating suicide. He was now a guardian, watching over the souls who had found peace and the living who could now live in peace. And that was a mission he was prepared to fulfill for the rest of his life. Months later, the authorities decided to renovate Butterfly Building. They excavated the basement foundation to perform a mass ritual for all those who had died there. The human remains were collected and properly cremated. During the excavation, they found something, an ancient stone tablet buried deep beneath the concrete. Inscribed on the tablet were characters. In the Guiyu year, Daeguang era, this was once a cemetery for plague victims. Over 1,000 dead were buried hastily. Their souls are restless, wandering, seeking their way home. May future generations perform rituals for their release. Below the inscription was a red seal, the seal of a Qing dynasty Taoist priest. He was the one who sealed the Demon King, hoping that one day someone would find it and complete the work. And now, that work had been completed. After renovation, Butterfly Building became a good place to live. No more strange occurrences, only the normal lives of city residents. But on bright moonlit nights, if one stands on the rooftop and listens carefully, sometimes a faint song can still be heard. Moonlight bright on desolate land. Who has a mother, who has a father? Now we are no longer afraid, for we have returned home. The Moonlight Mystery Case. Civilization University, located in Changsha City, was one of the most prestigious universities in the region. The campus was vast, with ancient buildings interspersed with modern structures. But there was one building that every student knew and everyone feared. It was Building 4, also known as the Shadow Dorm. Building 4 was a female dormitory, built in 1985. Its architecture was old Soviet style, square, gray, nothing special. But what made it terrifying were the ghost stories surrounding room 405. The night of June 16, 2015, the full moon shone brightly in the Changsha sky. In room 405, 4 female students were preparing for bed after a long day of studying. Lin Zio Wan, a second-year literature student, sat at her desk reviewing her lectures. She was a round-faced girl with long hair, always smiling, beloved by her classmates. "Xiao Wan, it's late, go to bed," Chen Mei-er, her roommate, said. Mei-er was a petite girl with fair skin who liked to wear floral dresses. "Just a little more," Xiao Wan replied. "I have an exam tomorrow, I'm worried." "Worried? With your grades, you'll pass anyway," Wang Qi interjected. He was the daughter of a wealthy family, beautiful but a bit arrogant. The fourth girl in the room was Zhang Jaiwen, the quietest. Jaiwen had an elegant face but was always cool, rarely smiling. She was lying on her bed, wearing headphones and listening to music. The four girls had lived in the room together for 2 years, familiar with each other's personalities. They weren't the closest of friends but were harmonious, with no major conflicts. That night, after turning off the lights, Xiao Wan was still awake, sitting by the window, looking out. Moonlight streamed into the room, creating strange shadows on the walls. Suddenly, she heard a very faint crying sound, as if coming from the hallway. Xiao Wan listened. The crying continued, clearer now. It was the weeping of a girl, sad and despairing. "Is someone crying?" Xiao Wan wondered. She opened the room door and looked into the hallway. The hallway was empty, silent. Moonlight streamed through the hallway window, casting a pale white streak of light on the floor. The crying stopped. Xiao Wan stood there for a moment, then went back into the room and closed the door. But when she turned back, she saw a figure standing by the window, its back to her. "Mei-er, what are you doing?" Xiao Wan asked, thinking it was her roommate. The figure didn't answer. It stood still as a statue, its long hair falling down, covering its back. Xiao Wan walked closer, placing a hand on the figure's shoulder. "What's wrong?" The figure slowly turned around. Xiao Wan screamed when she saw that face. No eyes, just 2 deep, empty black sockets. Its mouth was gaping wide, no tongue, just a deep black hole. "Help me!" The voice didn't come from the mouth but echoed in Xiao Wan's head. "Help me get out of here." Xiao Wan startled awake. She sat up in bed, drenched in sweat. It was still dark around her. Her 3 roommates were still fast asleep. Just a nightmare, Xiao Wan told herself, trying to calm down. But when she looked out the window, the moon was still full and bright, and on the windowpane were small handprints, like those of a child, imprinted all over. The next morning, Xiao Wan woke up exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Her 3 roommates looked at her with concern. "Are you okay?" Mei-er asked. "You look like you didn't sleep at all." I had a nightmare," Xiao Wan said. "I dreamed of a woman with no eyes." He scoffed. "Probably studied too much, stress, don't think strange thoughts." But Jai Wen looked at Xiao Wan with strange eyes. She said nothing, just silently got up and tidied her belongings. Xiao Wan showered and prepared for class, but all day she couldn't concentrate. The image of the woman with no eyes kept appearing in her mind, terrifying her. That afternoon, returning to the dorm, Xiao Wan met a senior student named Zhu Liqing. Liqing was known around school for knowing many ghost stories. "Sister Liqing, can you tell me about room 405? Xiao Wan asked. Liqing was surprised. "Why do you ask about that room?" Because I'm living in that room." Xiao Wan's face paled. "You're in room 405. How can that be? That room is supposed to be vacant." "I don't understand what you mean," Xiao Wan said anxiously. Liqing pulled Xiao Wan to a quiet corner and spoke softly. "Don't you know? Room 405 has had 3 suicides, all female students. All jumped from the window on the night of the full moon, June 16, every year." Xiao Wan felt her blood run cold. 3 suicides, when? "The first was in 2010, Liqing recounted. A female student named Yi Han. She was beautiful and brilliant, but she suddenly jumped from the window of room 405, dying instantly. No one understood why. The second was in 2012, a female student named Chen Siwei. She also lived in room 405 and also jumped on the night of June 16, exactly on the full moon night. The third was in 2014, a female student named Liu Menglin, just like the 2 previous cases. And now it's 2015. "Last night was June 16, Xiao Wan whispered. Li Qing nodded. Exactly. After 3 suicides, the school decided not to let students live in room 405 anymore. But this year, perhaps because of too many students, they reopened that room. Xiao Wan trembled. So what should I do? You must request a room change immediately, Li Qing said seriously. Don't stay in that room for another night. The full moon night is very dangerous. Xiao Wan rushed to the dormitory management office. She asked to see Mrs. Li, the manager. Mrs. Li was a strict, unyielding, middle-aged woman. When Xiao Wan said she wanted to change rooms, Mrs. Li shook her head. That's not possible. Currently, all rooms are full. If you want to change, you'll have to wait until next semester. But Mrs. Li, room 405 has a problem, Xiao Wan pleaded. 3 people have died there. Mrs. Li was annoyed. You shouldn't believe those baseless superstitions. Those 3 cases were suicides, nothing to do with the room itself. Don't cause a fuss, it affects other students. But. No buts, Mrs. Li cut her off. If you don't want to live in the dorm, you can go rent a place outside. Otherwise, you must stay quietly in room 405. Xiao Wan left the office feeling helpless. She knew Mrs. Li didn't believe her, and she had no evidence to convince her. Back in her room, Xiao Wan recounted to her 3 roommates the story Li Qing had told her. Their reactions were very different. Mei was terrified. Oh my god, so we're living in a haunted room? He remained calm. That's just a legend. Those 3 people committed suicide probably for their own reasons, not because of ghosts. Jai Wen was silent, just sitting on her bed, looking out the window. The afternoon sun shone in, but her face remained gloomy. Aren't you scared? Xiao Wan asked. What good is being scared? He said. We can't change rooms, so we have to stay here. It's best not to think strange thoughts. But that night, none of the 4 slept peacefully. They all felt something was wrong in the room. The night of June 17, the moon was still full, though not as brightly radiant as the night before. The 4 girls lay in their beds, trying to sleep, but all were awake. Xiao Wan listened to the steady breathing of the other 3, wondering if they were truly asleep or just pretending. Suddenly, she heard footsteps from the hallway, very light steps, like someone walking barefoot. Slowly, they approached the door of room 405. Xiao Wan held her breath, listening. The footsteps stopped right in front of the room door, then there was a very light knock, 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. No one in the room dared to open the door. They all remained silent, hoping whoever was outside would leave. But the knocking continued, this time stronger, 5 times. Knock, 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 knock. Someone, please open the door for me. A faint voice came from outside. It was a girl's voice, sounding very sad. Mei sat up, whispering, someone's outside. Should we open the door? Don't, Xiao Wan said. Don't open the door. But he had already stood up and walked to the door. Let's open it and see. Maybe it's a friend who needs help. He don't, Xiao Wan cried out, but he had already opened the door. There was no one outside. The hallway was empty, only moonlight streaming through the window. He looked left and right, saw no one. There's no one, I must have misheard. She turned back into the room and closed the door. But as she turned her back, she felt something icy cold touch the back of her neck. He turned around and saw a woman standing right behind her, wearing a white dress, with long hair falling down, obscuring her face. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The woman slowly lifted her head, revealing a face with no eyes, only 2 hollow black sockets. Thank you for opening the door for me, the woman said, her voice sweet but chilling. He fainted on the spot. The next morning, he woke up in bed, remembering nothing about last night. Her 3 roommates asked her, but she just shook her head, saying she couldn't recall anything. You fainted after opening the door, Mei said. We helped you back to bed. Did you see anything? Xiao Wan asked. He shook her head. No, I don't remember anything. But from that day on, he changed. She became silent, spoke little, and was no longer as cheerful as before. She often looked out the window as if searching for something. Mei and Xiao Wan were worried but didn't know what to do. They suggested he see a doctor, but she refused. I'm fine, he said, just a bit tired. But that night, Xiao Wan woke up in the middle of the night and saw he standing by the window, looking down. He, what are you doing? Wan asked. He didn't turn around, just whispered, "It's beautiful down there. If I jump, I'll be free." Wan, startled, quickly jumped out of bed and pulled He away from the window. "What are you saying? Don't have strange thoughts." He turned to look at Wan, her eyes empty as if soulless. "She told me to jump down." "She, who is she?" Wan asked, frightened. He pointed out the window. "She's down there, waiting for me." Wan looked out the window, seeing nothing but darkness, but she felt a chill run down her spine. She woke Mei and Jai Wen and recounted what He had said. The three decided they had to do something before it was too late. The next morning, while he went to class, the three remaining girls decided to investigate the three previous suicides. They went to the school library, searching for old newspapers and student records. After many hours of digging, they found some information. Yi Zihan, a third-year art student, died on June 16, 2010, jumping from the window of room 405. Before her death, she had told friends that she saw a woman in a white dress standing in the room, calling her to follow. Chen Siwei, a second-year economics student, died on June 16, 2012, also jumping from room 405. According to her diary, she wrote that every night she heard crying and her name being called. Liu Menglin, a first-year chemistry student, died on June 16, 2014. A day before her death, she sent an email to her mother, saying she felt something strange in the room, but no one believed her. Wan, Mei and Jai Wen looked at each other, all feeling scared. The three suicides all had common points. They occurred on the night of June 16, the full moon night. All jumped from the window of room 405, and all had seen a strange woman. "So who is that woman?" Mei asked. "Why does she do this?" "We must find out about the history of Building 4, Wan said. "Perhaps something happened before the school built this dormitory." They went to the school's archives office, asking to see documents about the building's construction history. The staff initially refused, but after Wan explained it was for a research paper, they agreed to let them see. In the records, they discovered something remarkable. Before Building 4 was constructed in 1985, the site used to be an old house. The house was demolished after a fire in 1984, in which a young woman died. "A woman died in a fire," Jai Wen said, speaking more than usual. "Perhaps she is the vengeful spirit." While Wan and Mei were discussing how to find more information, Jai Wen suddenly said, "Do you want to know the truth?" The two girls looked at Jai Wen, surprised. This quiet girl now seemed to want to reveal something important. "What truth?" Wan asked. Jai Wen sighed. I've known about room 405 for a long time. I'm not here by chance." "What do you mean?" Mei asked, worried. Jai Wen explained that in 2014, Liu Menglin, the girl who committed suicide, was her cousin. When she died, their family was devastated. Her parents didn't believe she committed suicide because she was always cheerful, with no reason to die. "I applied to this school, specifically asking to live in room 405 to find out the truth about my cousin's death." "So what have you found?" Wan asked. Jai Wen took a small notebook from her bag. "This is a diary I found among my cousin's belongings. In it, she recounted what she went through in room 405. She opened the notebook and read aloud. "June 10, 2014, last night I heard crying from the hallway. I opened the door and saw a woman in a white dress standing at the end of the hallway. She turned to look at me, but her face was obscured by her long hair. I was so scared, I quickly closed the door." June 12, 2014, the woman appeared again. This time, she stood right in front of my room door. She knocked and said, "Open the door for me." I didn't dare to open it, but my roommate did. When the door opened, there was no one, but I felt she had entered the room. June 14, 2014, she spoke to me in a dream. She told me I had to help her, had to get her out of here. If not, I would have to stay in her place. June 16, 2014, I'm so scared. She appears even when I'm awake. She stands by the window, pointing down, telling me to jump. I don't want to, but I feel like I can't control myself anymore. June 16, 2014, Tonight is the full moon night. She says tonight I have to decide. Either jump or find someone else to replace me. I don't want to harm anyone. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, Dad. I love you. Jai Wen finished reading, tears streaming down her face. My cousin died because she didn't want to harm anyone. She chose death. Xiao Wan and Mei were silent, deeply moved. They understood that the 3 suicides were not random. They were choices made by girls who didn't want to hurt others. So now Qi is facing a similar choice, Mei asked. Perhaps, Jai Wen said, and we have to find a way to save her before it's too late. The 3 girls quickly discussed a plan. They decided they had to find out more about the vengeful spirit to soothe her resentment and release her. Xiao Wan remembered Professor Li Mingde, an old professor at the school, known for his vast knowledge and interest in local history, including ghost stories. They went to Professor Li's house and recounted the entire story. Professor Li listened carefully, then nodded. You are right. I also heard about the fire in 1984. The woman who died in it was Shen Jinghua, 22 years old, a final-year literature student at this university. How did she die? Xiao Wan asked. Professor Li sighed. It was a tragedy. Shen Jinghua was in love with a young man named Zhang Weikang, also a student at this school, but her family objected because Zhang Weikang came from a poor background. Her parents forced her to break up with him and arranged for her to marry the son of a wealthy businessman. Shen Jinghua refused and ran away from home, renting a small room near the school. One night, that room caught fire. Shen Jinghua couldn't escape in time and burned to death inside. People said it was an accident, but there were also rumors that it was intentional arson, hired by her family to erase the family's disgrace. How cruel, Mei whispered. After Shen Jinghua died, Zhang Weikang also committed suicide, jumping into the river, Professor Li continued. They loved each other but couldn't be together. Shen Jinghua's resentment is very strong. Perhaps that's why her soul couldn't find peace and became a vengeful spirit. So how can we help her find peace? Jai Wen asked. Professor Li thought for a moment, then said, a vengeful spirit exists because of unresolved resentment. Shen Jinghua died unjustly, unable to be with the man she loved. If you can help her reunite with Zhang Weikang, or at least alleviate the hatred in her heart, then perhaps she will find peace. But Zhang Weikang is dead, Xiao Wan said. True, Professor Li nodded. But perhaps his soul is still somewhere, or you could perform a ritual to call for both their souls to meet in the underworld. After leaving Professor Li's house, the 3 girls decided to split up to search for information about Zhang Weikang. They only had 3 days until the next full moon night. On the 16th, Xiao Wan went to the city library to search old newspapers for Zhang Weikang's suicide in 1984. After many hours of searching, she found a short article. Student commits suicide for love. Zhang Weikang, 23, a final-year engineering student at Civilization University, jumped into the Xiang River after his beloved died in a fire. His body was found 3 days later, badly decomposed. The family cremated and buried him at Qingshan Cemetery. Xiao Wan took a photo of the article and sent it to the other 2. We have to go to Qingshan Cemetery. Meanwhile, Mei went to the school's student records office, looking for information about Shen Jinghua and Zhang Weikang. She found their graduation photos. Shen Jinghua was a beautiful girl with long hair, big eyes, and a radiant smile. Zhang Weikang was a tall, handsome young man with gentle eyes. They looked so happy. Mei whispered, feeling heartbroken for the ill-fated lovers. Jai Wen, on the other hand, went to find Shen Jinghua's relatives. After inquiring in many places, she found the address of Mrs. Shen, Jinghua's mother. Mrs. Shen was now old and frail, living alone in a small house on the outskirts of the city. When Jai Wen knocked, she opened the door, looking at the young girl with surprise. What do you want from me, young lady? Mrs. Shen asked. I want to ask about Sister Shen Jinghua, Jai Wen said carefully. Hearing her daughter's name, Mrs. Shen trembled, tears streaming down her face. My daughter, you know my daughter. Jai Wen recounted the story of room 405, the suicides, and Shen Jinghua's vengeful spirit. Mrs. Shen wept bitterly as she listened. My poor daughter. She died unjustly, her soul cannot rest. Mrs. Shen said amid sobs. "It's my fault. My husband and I forced her, wouldn't let her love Wei Kang. We thought we were doing it for her, but in the end, we caused her death." "Don't blame yourself, madam," Jai Wen said, taking Mrs. Shen's hand. "Now we want to help Sister Jinghua find peace. Can you tell us more about her?" Mrs. Shen nodded, led Jai Wen into the house, and took out an old box. Inside were many photos, handwritten letters, and a small ring. "These are my daughter's things," Mrs. Shen said. "This ring was given to her by Wei Kang. She treasured it dearly. When she died, this ring luckily wasn't burned. I kept it to remember her." Jai Wen looked at the ring, a simple silver ring without gemstones, but engraved with two characters, TH, Jinghua's initials. "May I borrow this ring?" Jai Wen asked. "We will use it in the ritual for her." Mrs. Shen hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right. If it can help my daughter rest in peace, I'm willing to give anything." That afternoon, the three girls met at the school gate and went together to Qingshan Cemetery. The cemetery was located on a small hill on the outskirts, quiet and rarely visited. They brought the information from the newspaper article and found the burial plot of the Zhang family. After some searching, they found Zhang Weikang's grave. It was a small, simple grave. The stone tablet's inscription faded with time. Around the grave, weeds grew abundantly. There was no sign of anyone visiting. "No family members come to visit," Mei asked sadly. "Perhaps his family moved elsewhere," Xiao Wan said. Jai Wen took out incense and flowers from her bag and placed them before Zhang Wei Kang's grave. The three girls knelt together, lighting incense and praying. "Brother Zhang Wei Kang, we are here to ask for your help," Xiao Wan said aloud. "Sister Shen Jinghua, the one you loved, her soul cannot rest and has become a vengeful spirit. She is harming many people. We want to perform a ritual for both of you so that you can reunite in the underworld and enter reincarnation together." They waited in silence, but nothing happened. A gentle breeze blew, rustling the branches of the surrounding trees. Suddenly, Jai Wen noticed something strange. On the tombstone, the faded characters suddenly became clearer, as if someone had just re-engraved them. And beneath Zhang Wei Kang's name was a small line of text they hadn't noticed before: "Jinghua, I'm still waiting for you." The three girls looked at each other, all deeply moved. Zhang Wei Kang truly loved Shen Jinghua profoundly, waiting even in death. "We must help them reunite," Mei said with determination. While the three girls went to gather information, He stayed alone in the room. She said she wasn't feeling well and needed to rest, but in reality, He was no longer herself. The vengeful spirit Shen Jinghua had partially invaded her mind, controlling her thoughts and actions. He sat on the bed, looking out the window, her eyes empty. In her head, Shen Jinghua's voice constantly echoed, jump down, you'll be free, no more suffering." He shook her head, trying to resist. "No, I don't want to die." "But you have no choice," the voice continued. "Either you jump down or you must find someone else to replace you. Do you want your friends to die in your place?" He cried. "I don't want anyone to die." "Then you must jump," the voice said coldly. "The full moon night is coming soon. That's the night you must decide." He clutched her head, writhing in pain. She felt her mind being torn in two, half herself, half the vengeful spirit. Suddenly, the room door opened. The three girls who had been researching returned. They saw He clutching her head and crying, and quickly ran over. "He, what's wrong?" Xiao Wan asked, hugging He. He looked up at the three girls, tears streaming down her face. "Save me, everyone. I don't want to die, but she's making me." "We will save you," Jai Wen said. "We've found a way to appease the vengeful spirit. On the full moon night, we'll perform the ceremony." But there are 3 more days," He said, her voice trembling. "I'm not sure I can last 3 days." "You must try," Mei said, clutching He's hand. "We'll be with you, we won't leave you alone." From then on, the 3 girls took turns watching He, never leaving her alone for a minute. They feared that if they left He by herself, the vengeful spirit would completely take control and make her jump from the window. The next 2 days, the 3 girls prepared for the ritual. According to Professor Li's advice, they needed the following items: Shen Jinghua's ring, an item belonging to Zhang Wei Kang, incense, flowers, white candles, a white cloth for the altar, and most importantly, sincerity. Zhang Wei Kang's item was harder to find. They returned to Qingshan Cemetery, searching around the grave, hoping to find something. Luckily, they found a small, faded photograph buried deep in the ground near a tree beside the grave. The photo was faded, but they could still make out the image of Zhang Weikang and Shen Jinghua standing together, smiling radiantly. "This must be the photo he carried with him when he committed suicide," Xiao Wan said. "It fell into the river and then drifted here." They carefully retrieved the photo and wrapped it tightly in a plastic bag. Now they had all the necessary items. The night of the 15th, the night before the full moon, the three girls prepared the altar in room 405. They spread the white cloth on the floor, placing incense, flowers, candles, the ring, and the photo on it. Qi lay exhausted on the bed. She hadn't eaten anything for the past 2 days, only drank water. Her face was pale, her eyes deeply sunken. "You have to hold on for one more night," Xiao Wan said, stroking Qi's hair. "Tomorrow we'll perform the ritual and everything will end." Qi nodded weakly. "I'll try." But that night, none of the four slept. They all felt the atmosphere in the room was very heavy, as if something was approaching. At midnight, as the three girls were watching Qi, the window suddenly flew wide open. A cold wind blew in, extinguishing the candles on the altar. The three girls startled, looking out the window. Moonlight streamed in, creating a streak of light on the floor, and in that streak of light, a figure appeared. It wasn't Shen Jinghua, it was a tall young man wearing a white shirt and black trousers. His face was handsome but pale, as if bloodless. "Zhang Weikang," Jai Wen whispered, recognizing him from the photo. The figure turned to look at the three girls, smiling sadly. "Are you preparing a ritual for Jinghua?" Xiao Wan swallowed, trying to compose herself. "Yes, we want to help Sister Shen Jinghua, and you find peace so you can reunite." Zhang Weikang sighed. "I thank you, but it's not that easy." "Why?" Mei asked. "Because Jinghua is not just an ordinary vengeful spirit," Zhang Weikang said. "She died in a fire, burned alive. Her pain and hatred were too great, distorting her soul, turning her into an evil spirit. She no longer remembers our love, she only knows hatred and seeks revenge." "So what should we do?" Jai Wen asked. "There's only one way," Zhang Weikang said. "I must meet Jinghua directly and remind her of our past, remind her of our love. Only then can her resentment dissipate and she can find peace. But how can you meet her?" Xiao Wan asked. "Tomorrow night, the full moon night," Zhang Weikang said. "That is when Jinghua's resentment is strongest and also when she will fully manifest. You must perform the ritual, calling for her soul and my soul to meet in this room. But if Sister Shen Jinghua manifests, she will harm us," Mei said, frightened. "I will protect you," Zhang Weikang said, "as long as you don't leave the protective circle I'm about to draw." Saying that, he walked over, took a candle, and used the candle wax to draw a large circle on the floor, large enough for the four girls to sit inside. "Tomorrow night, you must sit inside the circle. Do not go outside, no matter what happens," Zhang Weikang instructed. "I will confront Jinghua and convince her." "What about our friend Qi?" Xiao Wan asked. "She's being controlled by the vengeful spirit." Zhang Weikang looked at Qi, who was lying on the bed, her face full of worry. "She is in a very dangerous state. If tomorrow night's ritual fails, she will be completely taken over by Jinghua, becoming a puppet for the vengeful spirit." "No," the three girls cried out. "So you must help me," Zhang Weikang said seriously. "Only love can erase hatred. You must believe in that." Zhang Weikang's form slowly faded, then disappeared completely. The three girls stood there, filled with worry and determination. June 16, 2015 arrived. The sun shone brightly, but the hearts of the four girls were heavy. Qi grew weaker and weaker. She was almost unconscious, just lying still on the bed, occasionally mumbling incomprehensible sentences. The three other girls ate sparingly, spending the entire day preparing for the evening's ritual. They bought more incense, candles, fresh flowers, and some offerings. As night fell, the full moon appeared in the sky, shining brightly like a silver disk. The moonlight streamed into room 405, creating a strange atmosphere, both beautiful and eerie. The three girls sat inside the protective circle that Zhang Weikang had drawn, while Qi lay on the bed outside the circle. Xiao Wan lit incense and placed it on the altar. Mei lit the candles. Jai Wen placed the ring and the photo in the center of the altar. We sincerely call upon the souls of Shen Jinghua and Zhang Wei Kang, Xiao Wan said aloud. You two once loved each other deeply, but were separated by fate. Now we perform this ritual to help you reunite and enter reincarnation together. They waited in silence. The room grew cold, their breaths forming white mist in the air. Suddenly, the candles on the altar flickered, then went out completely, but immediately afterward they spontaneously reignited. The flames were larger than before. A figure appeared by the window. It was Shen Jinghua, wearing a white dress with long hair falling down, her face pale. But unlike previous times, this time she had blood-red eyes filled with hatred. You dare call upon me? Shen Jinghua said, her voice chilling. What do you want? Sister Shen Jinghua, we want to help you find peace, Xiao Wan said, her voice trembling. You died unjustly, your resentment unresolved, but now it's time for you to let go and rest in peace. Shen Jinghua scoffed, a cold, sharp laugh. Let go? What should I let go of? I died in fire, my flesh burned away in agony until the very end. Why should I let go? Because hatred will only bring you more suffering. Another voice resonated. Zhang Wei Kang appeared beside Shen Jinghua. He looked at her with gentle, loving eyes. Wei Kang, Shen Jinghua whispered, her blood-red eyes suddenly shifting to a soft brown. Jinghua, do you remember me? Zhang Wei Kang said, his voice tender. We once promised to be together forever, but fate wouldn't allow it. You abandoned me, Shen Jinghua said, her voice choked. I died alone, in so much pain, so scared, you weren't there with me. I'm sorry, Zhang Wei Kang said, tears streaming down his face. I couldn't save you, I was too weak, I only knew how to die with you. But I always waited for you, hoping one day we would meet again. Shen Jinghua trembled, the resentment on her body slowly dissipating. You truly loved me. I loved you more than anything in this world, Zhang Wei Kang said. I always loved you from the first day we met until now, and I will love you forever. He reached out and took Shen Jinghua's hand. The moment their hands touched, a brilliant flash of light erupted, filling the entire room. The dazzling light made the three girls close their eyes. When they opened their eyes, they saw Shen Jinghua and Zhang Wei Kang standing, embracing each other. Light enveloped them like a halo. Shen Jinghua was no longer terrifying. She looked as she had in the photo, beautiful with a radiant smile, her resentment completely gone. Thank you, girls, Shen Jinghua said to the three girls. You helped me find Wei Kang, helped me remember love. I apologize for harming innocent people. Don't blame yourself, sister, Xiao Wan said. You've suffered too much already. Now, please rest in peace. Shen Jinghua nodded, then turned to look at Zhang Wei Kang. Darling, let's go, we've waited too long. Yes, let's go, Zhang Wei Kang smiled. The two figures slowly faded into the light. Before disappearing completely, Shen Jinghua added one more sentence. The girl on the bed, I have returned her soul. She will be fine. Then they vanished completely. The room returned to normal. Moonlight still streamed through the window, but the chilling sensation was gone. The three girls quickly ran to the bed to check on Qi. She was still lying there, but her face was now rosy, her breathing steady. Qi, Xiao Wan called. Qi slowly opened her eyes and looked at her three friends. Girls, what happened? It's all over, Mei said, hugging Qi and weeping. You're safe. The four girls embraced, crying and laughing, released from the nightmare. In the days that followed, the lives of the four girls returned to normal. Qi gradually recovered, no longer affected by the vengeful spirit. They requested to move out of room 405, and the school agreed. Room 405 was subsequently sealed, no longer allowing any students to reside there. A week later, the four girls went together to Qingshan Cemetery, bringing flowers and incense to visit Zhang Wei Kang's grave. When they arrived, they were surprised to see a fresh bouquet of flowers already placed before the grave, still very new, as if just placed yesterday. Who put flowers here? Mayor asked. Xiao Wan smiled. Perhaps it was Shen Jinghua. She visited before going into reincarnation. They placed their flowers beside the existing ones, lit incense, and prayed for Zhang Weikang and Shen Jinghua to find peace, to reunite in the next life without any more obstacles. Afterward, Jai Wen went to Mrs. Shen's house, returned the ring, and recounted the entire story. Mrs. Shen wept bitterly, but they were tears of relief. "My daughter has finally found peace," Mrs. Shen said. "Thank you, girls, you did what I couldn't." "Don't say that, madam," Jai Wen said. "We just did what we could." From then on, Civilization University never had another suicide case in room 405. The story of Shen, Jinghua, and Zhang Weikang became a legend, recounted by students as a lesson about love and forgiveness. A year passed since the ritual. Civilization University welcomed a new batch of students, and among them was Ding Hao Ran, a first-year journalism student, curious and fond of exploring mysteries. Hao Ran heard about the story of room 405 from older students. He was curious to investigate, but the room was sealed, no one allowed in. One night in June 2016, when the full moon appeared in the sky again, Hao Ran decided to sneak into room 405. He managed to get the key from the guard using a small trick. And at midnight, when everyone was asleep, he snuck into Building 4. The hallway was dark, with only moonlight shining through the window, creating faint streaks of light. Hao Ran turned on his flashlight and slowly walked to room 405. The door had a paper seal, but Hao Ran ignored it. He unlocked it and pushed the door open. Inside, the room was empty, no furniture, only 4 old iron beds, a wooden desk, and a wardrobe. Thick dust covered everything. The air was damp and moldy. Nothing special. Hao Ran told himself, sweeping his flashlight around the room. But when he shone the light on the floor, he noticed something strange. A floorboard seemed loose, not fitting with the others. Hao Ran knelt down and tried to lift the board. Initially, it didn't budge, but after several attempts, the board came loose. Beneath it was a small, pitch-black void. Hao Ran shone his flashlight down and saw an old wooden box lying there. "What's this?" he wondered, picking up the box. The box was quite heavy, its surface carved with ancient patterns. Hao Ran opened the lid. Inside were an old diary, a black-and-white photograph, and a handwritten letter. Hao Ran opened the diary and read. The first page read, "Diary of Shen Jinghua, 1984. Hao Ran startled. "This is the diary of the vengeful spirit the others talked about." He continued to read. "June 1, 1984. Today is my 22nd birthday. Weikang gave me a simple but beautiful silver ring. He said he would save money to buy me a diamond ring later. I told him I didn't need it. Having him by my side was enough. June 3, 1984. My parents found out about me loving Weikang. They were very angry, saying Weikang wasn't worthy of me because he was poor. They forbade me from seeing him and said they had arranged for me to marry the son of Mr. Chen, a wealthy businessman. I refused. I only love Weikang. June 10, 1984. I ran away from home. I rented a small room near the school, hoping my parents would calm down and accept my love for Weikang. But yesterday, I received a threatening phone call. The man said that if I didn't return home and follow my parents' wishes, I would be in danger. June 15, 1984. I'm so scared. Yesterday, I saw a strange man following me. I told Weikang, and he said he would protect me, but I worry that something is about to happen. If I die, I only wish I could be with Weikang in the next life. June 16, 1984. Tonight is the full moon. I have a bad feeling. I'm writing this diary to record it. If anything happens to me, I hope someone finds this and knows the truth. That was the last page of the diary. Hao Ran trembled, put the diary down, and picked up the letter to read. The letter read, "To the person who finds this letter. If you are reading these words, it means you have found the secret I have hidden for a long time. My name is Li Mingsun. In 1984, I was a third-year law student. I witnessed Shen Jinghua's death. On the night of June 16, 1984, I was passing by the room Jinghua rented and saw smoke coming out. I ran to try to save her, but I saw 2 men in black standing outside, blocking anyone from entering. They said it was an accident and no one should interfere. I heard Jinghua screaming for help from inside the room but couldn't do anything. I ran to call the fire department, but by the time they arrived, it was too late. Jinghua was dead. Afterward, I investigated and found that the fire was not an accident. It was a targeted assassination. Jing Hua's family had hired someone to burn down the house to erase their family's disgrace. They would not accept their daughter loving a poor man. I wanted to report it, but the Shen family had a lot of power. They threatened me, saying that if I spoke out, my family would be in danger. I was scared, so I kept silent. But I could never forget Jing Hua's screams for help. I retrieved her diary from the ashes and hid it. I hope that one day the truth will be exposed. If you find this letter, please help Jing Hua. Bring the truth to light so she can rest in peace. Li Ming's son, written on January 1, 1984. Hao Ran finished reading, trembling all over. So the truth about Shen Jing Hua's death was not an accident, but an assassination. But why was this letter hidden under the floor of room 405? This room was built in 1985, after the fire. Could Li Ming's son be the one who hid it here? Hao Ran looked at the last photo in the box. It was a group photo of 5 people, including Shen Jing Hua and Zhang Weikang. The person in the middle was a tall young man wearing glasses, looking serious. Behind the photo was a handwritten caption, "Close Friends 1984. From left, Li Ming's son, Shen Jing Hua, Zhang Weikang, Chu Ling, Huang Jian." Li Ming's son, Hao Ran murmured. The person who wrote the letter was their friend. The next morning, Hao Ran took the diary, the letter, and the photo to Professor Li Mingde, the professor who had helped the 4 girls the previous year. Professor Li listened to Hao Ran's account, his face serious. He examined the diary and the letter, then sighed. So that's the truth. Shen Jing Hua didn't die in an accident. She was murdered by her own family. "Professor, do you know who Li Ming's son is?" Hao Ran asked. Professor Li nodded. "Li Ming's son, I know him. He was once a student at this university, then became a famous lawyer. But 5 years ago, he suddenly passed away from heart disease. He had no family left, died alone in his apartment." "So how do we bring the truth to light now?" Hao Ran asked. "We need evidence," Professor Li said. "The diary and the letter alone are not enough. We must find the people involved in 1984 and gather proof of the assassination." Hao Ran decided to investigate further. He contacted Xiao Wan, Mei Qiu He, and Jai Wen, the 4 girls who had experienced the incident last year. They were surprised to hear the news and agreed to help. The 5 of them split up to search for information. They went to the library to review old newspapers about the 1984 fire. They found several articles, but all stated it was an accident, never mentioning the possibility of assassination. "Perhaps the Shen family silenced the press," Jai Wen said. "They had power money, they could easily hide the truth." "So we need to find witnesses," Hao Ran said. "In the photo, there are 5 people. Zhang Weikang and Shen Jing Hua are dead. Li Ming's son is also gone. That leaves 2, Chu Ling and Huang Jian. We must find them." After many days of searching, they found the address of Chu Ling, a woman now living in Changsha City, working as an elementary school teacher. The 5 of them went to meet Chu Ling. She was a middle-aged woman, her hair streaked with gray, her face gentle but seemingly carrying deep sorrow. When they recounted the diary and the letter, Chu Ling trembled, tears streaming down her face. "Children, you found it," she said, her voice choked. "I've waited for this for 30 years. "You know the truth about Sister Shen Jing Hua's death?" Xiao Wan asked. Chu Ling nodded. "I know, I was Jing Hua's best friend. The night she died, I was also nearby. I saw 2 men in black pour gasoline into Jing Hua's room, then set it on fire. I wanted to save her, but they threatened me, saying that if I dared to interfere, my family would be in danger. I was so scared, I just stood there watching the flames erupt, hearing Jing Hua's screams. I was a coward. I didn't save my friend." Chu Ling wept bitterly. "For 30 years, I've lived with this guilt. Every night I dream of Jing Hua. She looks at me with eyes full of resentment, asking why I didn't save her." "Don't blame yourself, madam," Mei said, taking Chu Ling's hand. "You were also a victim. Now, can you help us bring the truth to light?" Chu Ling nodded. "I am willing. I will testify. No matter how dangerous, I must do it so Jing Hua can rest in peace." They continued to search for Huang Jian, but information about him was scarce. After many days of investigation, they discovered that Huang Jian had died 10 years ago in a car accident. "Another death," Hao Ran said, disappointed. "It's not a coincidence," Jai Wen said. "Look at the date. Huang Jian died on June 16, 2006, exactly 22 years after Shen Jinghua's death. Everyone fell silent. They understood that Huang Jian's death might be related to Shen Jinghua. Perhaps Huang Jian knew too much and was killed by the Shen family to silence him. Or perhaps Shen Jinghua's vengeful spirit took revenge, he said. She resented everyone who didn't save her, Xiao Wan said. Whatever the reason, Huang Jian is dead. They can't get a statement from him. But luckily, they have Chu Ling, who is willing to testify, and they also have the diary and Li Mingsun's letter. We must go public, Hao Ran said. We must let everyone know the truth. Hao Ran decided to write an investigative article, publicly disclosing the full truth about Shen Jinghua's death. He published the article on a popular online news site, along with photos of the diary, the letter, and Chu Ling's testimony. The article caused a sensation. Within a day, it was shared millions of times on social media. People were outraged by the cruel actions of the Shen family. The police opened an investigation. They summoned Mrs. Shen, Shen Jinghua's mother, and Mr. Shen Daifu, Jinghua's father, for questioning. Initially, the Shens denied everything, but when confronted with Chu Ling and the evidence, they could not deny it. Finally, Mr. Shen Daifu confessed. Yes, I hired people to burn down the house to force my daughter to come home. I didn't think she would die, I just wanted to scare her. But you killed your daughter, Hao Ran shouted during the interrogation. Mr. Shen Daifu said nothing more. He was arrested along with the two men who had carried out the arson in 1984. Mrs. Shen, Jinghua's mother, completely collapsed. She wept bitterly, apologizing to her daughter. My child, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I couldn't protect you. But it was too late. Apologies could not bring Shen Jinghua back. After the truth was exposed, Civilization University held a memorial service for Shen Jinghua and Zhang Weikang. Hundreds of students attended, bringing flowers and candles, praying for the two. Room 405 was no longer sealed. Instead, it was converted into a small memorial room displaying photos of Shen Jinghua and Zhang Weikang along with their love story. On the wall was a large inscription: True love never dies. It transcends death, living on forever in the hearts of the living. Hao Ran, along with the four girls Xiao Wan, Mei Qi, and Jai Wen stood before room 405, lighting candles and silently praying. Sister Shen Jinghua, brother Zhang Weikang, Xiao Wan said, the truth has been exposed. You can both rest in peace now. A gentle breeze blew, flickering the candle flames. And in that moment, they felt as if two figures were standing beside them, holding hands, smiling. A year after the incident, room 405 was completely peaceful. No more strange occurrences. Students occasionally came here to read the story of Shen Jinghua and Zhang Weikang, moved and reflective. Hao Ran graduated, becoming a famous investigative journalist. His article about Shen Jinghua helped him win an Outstanding Journalism Award. The four girls Xiao Wan, Mei Qi, Jai Wen also graduated and started working. They still kept in touch, occasionally meeting to recall the days they faced the vengeful spirit. Chu Ling, who had testified, finally found release from the guilt in her heart. She said she had dreamed of Shen Jinghua. She smiled, saying she forgave her. Mr. Shen Daifu was sentenced to life imprisonment for murder. Mrs. Shen lived in remorse, dedicating the rest of her life to charity, hoping to atone for her sins against her daughter. The night of June 16, 2017 was another full moon night. Hao Ran returned to his old university, visiting room 405. He stood before the door, looking inside. The room was clean, tidy, no longer shrouded in gloomy darkness. Sister Jinghua, brother Weikang, Hao Ran whispered. You've reunited in a better place now, haven't you? No more suffering, no more separation. A gentle breeze blew, carrying a faint scent of flowers. Hao Ran smiled. He knew that Shen Jinghua and Zhang Weikang had truly found peace, their resentment gone. He turned and walked away, leaving room 405 in the gentle moonlight. In the underworld, two souls walked hand in hand in a dazzling white light. Jinghua, we're finally together, Zhang Weikang said. Yes, Shen Jinghua smiled. No more obstacles, we'll be together forever. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you, Zhang Weikang said, his voice sad. Don't blame yourself, Shen Jinghua said. It wasn't your fault, and now it's all over. We have an entire afterlife to make up for it." They stepped into the light, disappearing from this world, entering reincarnation, hoping that in the next life they would be born into better circumstances, with no obstacles to separate them. And in the world of the living, their story became a lesson of love, sacrifice, and the importance of truth. The Red Claws. The full moon of the 8th lunar month, Mautuet year, shone down on the dark forest of Thien Vu Sun Mountain. In the gloomy shadows of the trees, the mournful cries of a child echoed, then abruptly fell silent. Mrs. Lamb trembled, standing by the stream, a blood-soaked knife in her hands. Before her, the headless body of a girl, about 10 years old, lay motionless in a pool of dark red blood. The severed head had rolled to the side of the stream, its wide, round eyes still holding an expression of ultimate terror. "Mother, why?" The child's weak, final whisper still echoed in Mrs. Lamb's ears. The child's name was Bang Ka, her own daughter. The little girl had always been obedient and filial, her face delicate like a celestial maiden. But tonight, it was her mother's hands that had taken her life. Mrs. Lamb knelt beside her daughter's body, tears streaming down her face, but not a single sob escaped her lips. She carefully lifted Bang Ka's severed head, then, using the knife, gouged out the eyeballs from the hollow black sockets. Blood gushed out, staining her hands crimson. Above, the moon seemed obscured by a black cloud, its pale light casting a gruesome glow on the horrifying scene. The gurgling of the stream sounded like it was weeping for the tragic fate of the innocent child. The story must go back 10 years, to when Bang Ka was first born. Mrs. Lamb was the wife of Mr. Lamb, a renowned hunter in the region. The couple lived in a small house at the foot of Thien Vu Mountain. Although their life was poor, it was peaceful and happy. After 3 years of waiting, Mrs. Lamb received good news, filling the household with joy. But on that very full moon night of the 8th month, a strange event occurred. Just as Mrs. Lamb was about to give birth, a strange woman dressed in bright red suddenly appeared at their doorstep. The woman had a beautiful face, but her skin was deathly pale, like a corpse. Her lips, painted a deep crimson, held no trace of natural color. "Please, may I have a cup of water?" the woman in red asked, her voice sweet but strangely eerie. Mr. Lamb felt uneasy, but village customs strictly forbade refusing a stranger's request for water, so he poured a cup and handed it out. The woman in red took the cup, drank it in one gulp, then smiled and said, "I thank you for your kindness. In return, I shall bestow a gift upon your child about to be born." Without waiting for Mr. Lamb to react, the woman took out a piece of blood-red cloth, folded into a small square. She placed the cloth on Mrs. Lamb's belly, which was writhing in labor pains. "This child will carry a special destiny. This cloth is the mark." Having said that, the woman in red turned and walked out the door. Mr. Lamb quickly ran after her, but there was no one outside. It was as if the woman had never existed. That night, Bang Ka was born. The baby cried very loudly but strangely. The cries sounded mournful, like lamenting, rather than the usual cries of a newborn. The old midwife in the village, upon seeing the baby, turned pale and mumbled, "Bad omen, bad omen?" But the midwife dared not speak out, quickly finished her work, and left. From then on, she never set foot in the Lamb family's house again. The red cloth that the strange woman left behind was still there, lying beside newborn Bang Ka. Mrs. Lamb wanted to throw it away, but Mr. Lamb stopped her, saying, "It's a gift someone gave us. Throwing it away would be disrespectful." So the red cloth was stored in an old chest. Bang Ka grew up day by day, beautiful and intelligent, no less than any other child in the village. But she had one peculiarity. She was very afraid of sunlight. Whenever it was sunny, her skin would break out in red, itchy patches. The village doctor examined her but just shook his head, not knowing what kind of illness it was. When Bang Ka turned 5, strange things began to happen in the Lamb family's house. The first night, Mr. Lamb woke up at 3 a.m. He heard someone walking inside the house. He sat up to check and saw Bang Ka standing in the middle of the yard, facing Thien Vu Sun Mountain, her arms outstretched as if embracing something invisible. "Bang Ka, what are you doing?" Mr. Lamb called out loudly. Bang Ka slowly turned around, her pure white eyes pupilless, her mouth mumbling, "Grandma called me. Grandma wants it back." Mr. Lamb, horrified, hugged his daughter tightly. Bang Ka suddenly trembled and then began to cry. "Grandma, I'm scared. I dreamed of an old woman in a red dress. She said I owe her. From that night on, Bang Ka had continuous nightmares. She said that in her dreams she saw herself in a very dark place, surrounded by human skeletons. A woman in a bright red dress always appeared, telling her she had to pay her debt. Mrs. Lamb recalled the woman in red from years ago, her heart pounding. She took the red cloth out of the chest, preparing to burn it, but surprisingly, the cloth would not burn. Even after pouring oil on it and lighting a fire, the cloth remained intact, even emitting a strange fragrance, sweet but chilling. Mr. Lamb decided to seek out the village sorcerer. Master Zhang Thinsu was the only one in the region who knew some exorcism spells. He came to the Lamb family's house, examined the red cloth, and his face changed color. This is blood spirit cloth, a cloth soaked in the blood of someone who died unjustly. Master Zhang Thinsu said, trembling, the woman that night was not human. She died a very long time ago, carrying unresolved resentment. This cloth is a conduit of resentment. Anyone who receives it will be drawn into her fate. So what can we do to save my daughter? Mrs. Lamb pleaded. Master Zhang Thinsu shook his head. I can only temporarily seal the resentment in the cloth, but when Bang Ka turns 10, the resentment will erupt again. At that time, there will only be two paths. Either find a way to break the curse through sacrifice, or let the resentment consume Bang Ka. What does sacrifice mean? Mr. Lamb asked, his voice trembling. You must take the blood of a blood relative, personally kill Bang Ka on the full moon night of the 8th month, decapitate her, and remove her eyes as an offering to the vengeful spirit. Only then can the resentment be appeased, Master Zhang Thinsu said, then stood up and left, abandoning the Lamb family to despair. After Master Zhang Thinsu temporarily sealed the red cloth with yellow talismans, the Lamb family's life found temporary peace. Bang Ka no longer had nightmares. She grew up normally, like any other child. 5 years passed quickly, and Bang Ka was now a beautiful 10-year-old girl, like a peach blossom blooming in spring. She was bright, obedient, and loved by everyone in the village, but Mr. Lamb and Mrs. Lamb knew that a storm was approaching. In 3 more months, it would be the full moon of the 8th month, when Bang Ka turned 10. The couple couldn't sleep peacefully each night. I can't do it, Mr. Lamb said to his wife. Bang Ka is my daughter, my flesh and blood. Even if I have to die, I cannot kill my child. Mrs. Lamb remained silent. She knew her husband was right, but she also knew that if they didn't do it, Bang Ka would be tormented to death by the vengeful spirit, perhaps even more painfully. They decided to seek out Master Zhang Thinsu one more time. But when they arrived at his house, they learned that Master Zhang Thinsu had passed away 2 months ago under very strange circumstances. His body was found in the forest, his mouth gaping as if wailing, his eyes wide open, his entire body blackened as if burned. Villagers said that Master Zhang Thinsu had been avenged by ghosts because he had performed too many exorcisms, offending many vengeful spirits. Hearing this news, Mr. Lamb and Mrs. Lamb knew they had no other choice. If they couldn't find another master, they had to decide their daughter's fate themselves. While the Lamb family was struggling to find a solution, a stranger appeared in the village. It was a very old woman, with white hair, wearing an old black dress, her eyes cloudy as if covered by a film. The old woman introduced herself as a wanderer, and having heard about the Lamb family, came to tell a story. Mr. Lamb and Mrs. Lamb were suspicious, but when the old woman mentioned the red cloth and the woman in red, they invited her into their home. The old woman sat down, drank a sip of tea, then began to recount. Over 100 years ago, in this village, there was a girl named Bang Nai, the daughter of a wealthy family. She was incredibly beautiful, pursued by many young men, but she only loved one, a poor hunter named Shanghai. Bang Nai's parents vehemently objected, forcing her to marry the son of a high official. Bang Nai refused and secretly met Shanghai to plan their elopement, but Bang Nai's father discovered them. He ordered Shanghai to be killed that very night. When Bang Nai heard the news, she went mad, grabbed a knife, ran to the official's house, stabbed his son to death, then committed suicide on the spot. The blood of the 3 mingled, soaking into the red cloth Bang Nai intended to wear on her wedding day. The cloth became a vessel of extreme resentment. Bang Nai's ghost could not find peace, becoming a wandering, vengeful spirit. She couldn't accept her fate, so she sought to transfer her resentment to others so that someone else would bear her suffering. The old woman paused, looking at Mr. Lamb and Mrs. Lamb with compassionate eyes. Your daughter, Bang Ka, is the next victim Bang Nai chose. She saw the little girl in her mother's womb, knowing that Bang Ka shared a similar fate with her. If the resentment fully infiltrates, Bang Ka will become a puppet for Bang Nai's ghost, manipulated and eventually destroying herself. So what can we do to save our daughter? Mrs. Lamb cried bitterly. The old woman sighed. There is only one way. You must take the blood of a blood relative, personally kill Bang Ka on the full moon night of the 8th month, before the resentment completely takes over. Afterward, you must decapitate her and remove her eyes and use her blood to cleanse the red cloth. Only then will the resentment be broken, and Bang Nai can find peace. But that way my daughter will die, Mr. Lamb wailed. Yes, the old woman said, but if you don't do it, not only Bang Ka, but your entire family, even this entire village, will be destroyed by the resentment. Bang Nai has waited too long. Her resentment has reached its peak. If not resolved, hundreds of people will die. The old woman finished speaking, then stood up and walked out. Before leaving, she turned back and added one more sentence. The full moon is coming soon. Think carefully, but remember, this is a choice between one person and hundreds. After the old woman left, Mr. Lamb and Mrs. Lamb sat in silence all night. Bang Ka slept soundly in her room, unaware of the terrifying conversation that had just taken place. I can't do it, Mr. Lamb said, his voice choked. Bang Ka is my daughter. I'm willing to die in her place, but dying in her place is useless. Useless, Mrs. Lamb said, tears streaming down her face. The old woman made it clear, only a blood relative can break the curse. If you die, I must kill our child. If I die, you must kill our child. We cannot escape. Then I'll let the resentment destroy us all, and the whole village will die with us, Mr. Lamb said, his voice despairing. Mrs. Lamb shook her head. You speak selfishly. Hundreds of innocent people, including many children, many happy families. What right do we have to make them die with us? The couple argued all night but reached no conclusion. The sun rose. Bang Ka woke up, ran out to hug her parents, smiling broadly, unaware of the tragic fate awaiting her. In the days that followed, Mr. Lamb tried to spend more time with his daughter. He took Bang Ka hunting, taught her how to use a bow, how to identify animal tracks. Bang Ka was very happy. She didn't understand why her father was so kind to her these days. Mrs. Lamb, meanwhile, quietly sewed new clothes for her daughter and cooked Bang Ka's favorite dishes. Every night, she would go into her daughter's room, sit by her side watching Bang Ka sleep, tears streaming down her face unendingly. Finally, the full moon night of the 8th month, when Bang Ka turned 10, arrived. That afternoon, Mr. Lamb told Bang Ka that he would take her to see a beautiful waterfall on Thien Vu Sun Mountain, a place Bang Ka had always wanted to visit. Bang Ka jumped with joy, eagerly preparing. Mrs. Lamb stood inside the house, watching her husband and daughter leave, her heart feeling as if it were being squeezed. She knew her husband had made his decision. He would take Bang Ka far away, trying to escape the curse, even though she knew it was futile. But when it was dark, Mr. Lamb returned alone, his face pale. He buried his face in his hands and wept bitterly. I can't do it. I can't kill my daughter, he said, his voice thick with anguish. Mrs. Lamb was silent. She knew that if her husband couldn't do it, then she would have to. As Mr. Lamb sat crying, Mrs. Lamb quietly stood up, took a sharp hunting knife, and went outside to find Bang Ka. Bang Ka was sitting by the stream, playing with pebbles. Hearing footsteps, she turned around, smiling brightly. Mother, you're here, I'm playing with? Bang Ka stopped, seeing the knife in her mother's hand. Her expression gradually shifted from joyful to bewildered. Mother, why are you holding a knife? Mrs. Lamb said nothing, tears streaming down her face. She walked closer, gripping the knife tightly. Bang Ka was terrified, she backed away. Mother, I'm scared, please don't. My child, I'm sorry, Mrs. Lamb whispered. I have no other choice. Then she lunged, stabbing her daughter. Bang Ka screamed, blood gushing out. The little girl fell to the ground, looking at her mother with eyes full of horror and pain. Mother, why? Mrs. Lamb didn't answer. She trembled, gripping the knife and chopped down at her daughter's neck. 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes, until the head was severed from the body. Blood gushed out, staining the entire stream bank crimson. Mrs. Lamb knelt, holding her daughter's head, and gouged out her eyes, as the old woman had instructed. Above, the full moon shone brightly. A red ray of light shot out from Bang Ka's body, flying towards the Lam family's house where the red cloth was stored. When Mrs. Lam returned home, carrying her daughter's head and eyes, Mr. Lam had already fainted from grief. She opened the chest and took out the red cloth. Master Zhang Thiensu's yellow talismans had burned to ashes. The red cloth now emitted a strange, brilliant light. As instructed, Mrs. Lam dripped blood from Bang Ka's neck onto the cloth. The blood soaked in, and the cloth vibrated, emitting a piercing shriek. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the cloth. It was the woman in red who had appeared 10 years ago, but now her face was no longer beautiful, but distorted with hatred. "You have done correctly," the figure said, her voice sharp and cold. "But I still cannot find peace. The resentment is too deep. It cannot be dissolved by the blood of just one child." "So what more do you want?" Mrs. Lam screamed, her voice despairing. "I want your entire family to suffer as I have suffered," the figure said, scoffing. "This cloth will follow you forever. Anyone who touches it will be haunted by the curse." Having said that, the figure vanished. The red cloth fell to the ground, still intact, but now it was even redder than before, as if it had drunk a fresh supply of blood. Mrs. Lam clutched the cloth, weeping hysterically. She had killed her daughter, but the curse was still unbroken. It had all been for nothing. From that night on, the Lam family lived in misery. Mr. Lam never spoke to his wife again. He regarded her as an enemy. Mrs. Lam lived like a ghost, every night dreaming of her daughter crying, asking why her mother had killed her. 3 months later, Mr. Lam died in a hunting accident. Mrs. Lam knew it was no accident, but that the resentment had begun its revenge. She decided to burn the red cloth one last time. But even though she poured an entire barrel of oil on it and lit a fire, the cloth would not burn. Instead, the flames spread to their house, consuming it entirely. Mrs. Lam died in the inferno, but the red cloth remained intact amidst the ashes. 30 years passed since the tragedy of the Lam family. The small village at the foot of Thien Vu Mountain had completely transformed, becoming a part of the developing Jiangxin city. The story of the red cloth gradually became a legend, told by elders to children as ghost stories. Few remembered it clearly, and even fewer believed it had ever truly existed. Until one autumn day in 2018, when 4 young girls entered a small antique shop on Old Town Street. The 4 girls were Qin Jin, Qi Liang, Lin Zhu, and Zhang Min, close friends from university. They had all graduated and were working in Jiangxin City, occasionally gathering to maintain their friendship. That day, they were strolling through the old town when they happened to see an antique shop with a sign, "Huge sale, all inventory must go." "Let's go in and take a look." Qi Liang, the most curious of the group, pulled her friends inside. The shop was dim, with a strong smell of dampness and mold. The owner was a tall, thin man with white hair, his face deeply wrinkled. He sat behind the counter, dozing, as if oblivious to customers. The girls wandered among the shelves, examining all sorts of antiques: ceramic vases, old clocks, ancient jewelry, paintings. Suddenly, Qin Jin stopped in front of a small wooden chest placed in a corner. "Look at this," she exclaimed, pulling open the lid of the chest. Inside the chest lay a piece of bright red cloth, folded into a square. Its red color was strangely vibrant, as if freshly dyed yesterday, even though the chest was covered in dust. "How beautiful," Lin Zhu exclaimed. "This fabric looks as new as if it were just woven." Qin Jin lifted the cloth and spread it out. It was larger than they thought, about 2 square meters. The fabric was soft as silk, uniformly red, without a single wrinkle. "How much is this fabric?" Qi Liang asked the shop owner. The owner started awake. Seeing the cloth in Qin Jin's hands, his face changed color. That's not for sale," he stammered. "Why isn't it for sale?" Zhang Min asked. "Aren't you having a clearance sale?" The shop owner stood up, walked closer, and tried to snatch the cloth from Qin Jin's hands. "This is not for sale. Please put it down." But Qin Jin didn't let go. She felt a strange pull from the cloth, as if it were calling to her. "We'll pay a high price," Qin Jin said. "Any price you name, will you sell it?" The shop owner shook his head frantically. "No, you don't understand. This cloth has a problem." "What problem?" Qi Liang laughed. "Is it haunted?" "Yes," the shop owner shouted. "It really is haunted. I shouldn't have picked it up, but now I can't escape it. Please leave, don't touch it anymore." The four girls looked at each other and scoffed. They thought the shop owner was joking or trying to drive up the price. "We don't believe in superstitions," Lin Zhu said. "If you don't sell it, we'll report you to the police for defrauding customers." The shop owner's face turned pale, and he trembled. "Girls, please don't do that. All right, I'll sell it. But you must promise that if anything happens, don't blame me." "All right, we promise." Qin Jin quickly took out her wallet and paid. They bought the cloth for a surprisingly low price, only 500 yuan. The shop owner hastily wrapped the cloth in a paper bag, handed it to them, and then chased them out of the shop, slamming the door shut. "How peculiar," Zhang Min commented as they walked out. Qi Liang laughed. "We got a beautiful piece of fabric for cheap, that's all that matters." At a nearby coffee shop, the four girls sat down and spread the cloth on the table to examine it more closely. "This fabric is truly beautiful," Qin Jin said, stroking its soft surface. "I've never seen any fabric that holds its color so well." "And it's so large," Lin Zhu said. "One person can't use it all." Qi Liang suddenly had an idea. "Why don't we divide this fabric evenly? Each of us gets a piece and makes something from it as a memento of our friendship." "That's a great idea," Zhang Min agreed. "I can make a scarf, a handbag, or something truly special." Qin Jin and Lin Zhu also expressed their excitement. They decided to divide the cloth into 4 equal parts. Qin Jin took scissors from her handbag and began to cut. Strangely, the scissors were sharp, but cutting the fabric was very difficult. It was as if the fabric had an abnormal strength. Qin Jin had to use all her might to cut it. As the scissors pierced the fabric, a small drop of blood from Qin Jin's finger fell and soaked into the cloth. But the blood left no trace, as if the fabric had absorbed it. "Oh no, I cut my hand," Qin Jin cried out, holding up her finger to examine it. "Let me get a bandage for you." Lin Zhu quickly took out a small first aid kit. After bandaging the wound, they continued to divide the fabric. Finally, each person had a piece of red cloth, about half a square meter in size. "I'll make a scarf," Qi Liang said, happily clutching her piece of fabric. "I'll make a small phone pouch," Lin Zhu said. "I'll sew a small jacket for my doll," Zhang Min laughed. "And me," Qin Jin hesitated. "I'll make a small pillow to put on my bed." They laughed and joked, planning to buy more accessories to complete their creations. No one noticed that ever since they divided the cloth, a chilling sensation had begun to envelop them. A week later, Qi Liang finished her scarf made from the red fabric. She sewed it by hand very skillfully. The scarf looked elegant and unique. Qi Liang was very satisfied and decided to wear it every day. But from the very first night she wore the scarf home, Qi Liang began to have strange dreams. In her dream, she saw herself standing in a dark forest. The birds cried mournfully, like lamenting. She tried to find her way out, but the further she went, the deeper she got lost. Suddenly, a figure appeared before her. It was a woman in a red dress, her long hair falling down, obscuring her face. "You took what was mine," the woman whispered, her voice like the whistling wind. I didn't take anything from you," Qi Liang said, her voice trembling. The woman slowly lifted her head. Qi Liang screamed when she saw that face. No eyes, just 2 hollow black sockets, her mouth wide open as if wailing. "Give me back my eyes," the woman shrieked and lunged. Qi Liang woke up with a start, drenched in sweat. She looked around. It was still her familiar bedroom, but the air was strangely cold. The red scarf lay on her bedside table. Under the moonlight filtering through the window, it seemed to glow. Qi Liang was frightened, but she comforted herself that it was just a nightmare. She turned over and tried to go back to sleep. In the following nights, the dream repeated. Each time, the woman in red would appear, demanding Qi Liang return her eyes. Qi Liang began to suffer from insomnia, exhaustion, and declining health. "Perhaps I'm too stressed," Qi Liang thought, deciding to take a few days off work to rest. But rest didn't help. The dreams continued, even more vividly. Qi Liang started seeing the woman in red even when awake. Once, while sitting in her living room watching TV, Qi Liang briefly saw the woman's shadow pass by in the mirror. She turned to look, but there was nothing. Another time, while taking a shower, Qi Liang heard whispers from behind her. She turned and saw on the steamy mirror the words, "Give me back my eyes," written with a finger. Qi Liang was so scared she started crying. she decided to call her 3 friends and recount what was happening. "You're probably just having hallucinations from lack of sleep," Qin comforted. "You should see a doctor, or maybe it's work stress," Lin Zhu said. "You need to rest more." Only Zhang Min remained silent. She remembered the antique shop owner's warning and felt uneasy. "Qi Liang, could it be related to the red fabric?" Zhang Min asked. "No, it can't be," Qi Liang forced a laugh. "It's just fabric." But doubt began to creep into Qi Liang's mind. She decided to try taking off the scarf and not wearing it anymore. That night, she had no nightmares. Qi Liang slept soundly for the first time in days. She breathed a sigh of relief, thinking the problem was solved. But the next morning, when she woke up, Qi Liang discovered something horrifying. The red scarf was tightly wrapped around her neck, even though she was sure she had put it in a drawer before going to sleep. 3 days later, Qin received a call from the police. Qi Liang had died in her apartment. Her body was discovered by a neighbor after they smelled a foul odor coming from inside the house. The police broke down the door and found Qi Liang lying on her bed, dead for 3 days. The horrifying detail was a tight constriction mark around Qi Liang's neck, as if she had been hanged. But there was no rope or any object in the room that could have caused such a wound. There was only a red scarf wrapped around her neck, so tightly that her flesh was deeply indented. Qin, Lin Zhu, and Zhang Min went to Qi Liang's house, bewildered by the scene. The police said they suspected suicide but found no suicide note. "Qi Liang couldn't have committed suicide," Qin cried bitterly. "She was living very happily, had a boyfriend, a good job." "But in the last few days, she seemed unwell," Lin Zhu recalled. "She said she was having continuous nightmares." Zhang Min silently looked at the red scarf. The police had removed it from Qi Liang's neck and placed it in an evidence bag. "The red cloth," Zhang Min whispered. "It really does have a problem." "What are you saying?" Qin asked. "I think the red fabric we bought is really haunted," Zhang Min said, her voice trembling. "The shop owner warned us, but we didn't listen." Lin Zhu shook her head. "Don't make things up. This is the 21st century. Why still believe in such superstitions?" But Qin wasn't so sure. She remembered the strange feeling when she first held the cloth and how her blood had fallen onto it. After the police completed their investigation and concluded it was a suicide due to stress, they returned Qi Liang's belongings to her family. The red scarf was also returned. Qi Liang's mother, Mrs. Du, was a superstitious woman. She looked at the scarf, feeling uneasy. She decided to take it to a nearby temple and ask the abbot to examine it. The abbot was an elderly, revered monk who had practiced for over 50 years. He looked at the scarf, his face changing color. "Where did you get this item?" he asked. "It belonged to my daughter," Mrs. Du said. "My daughter died. I suspect it's related to this." The abbot was silent for a moment, then said, "This object carries very heavy resentment. A ghost haunts this fabric, having existed for a very long time. Your daughter did not die naturally, but was harmed by a vengeful spirit." "So what should I do?" Mrs. Du pleaded. "Please, master, save my daughter." "Your daughter has passed. She cannot be saved," the abbot sighed. "But I can perform a ritual to help her soul rest in peace. As for this object, it must be burned immediately." The abbot took the scarf out to the temple courtyard and set it on fire, but strangely, the flames could not consume the fabric. Even after continuously pouring oil and lighting it, the fabric remained intact. "The resentment is too strong," the abbot said, his face worried. "I cannot break it. Please take this object far away, bury it in a desolate place, and don't let anyone touch it again." Mrs. Du followed the abbot's advice. She took the scarf to an old cemetery on the outskirts, dug a deep hole, and buried it. Before burying it, she burned incense and prayed for her daughter's soul to find peace. After Qi Liang's funeral, the 3 remaining girls Qin, Lin Zhu, and Zhang Min gathered at Qin's house. "We need to talk about the red cloth," Zhang Min said seriously. "But there's no evidence that Qi Liang's death is related to the fabric," Lin Zhu objected. "The forensic doctor confirmed it was suicide." "What about her nightmares?" Zhang Min said. "She told us she constantly dreamed of a woman in red demanding her eyes. That's not normal." Qin was silent. She also began to feel uneasy. Ever since Qi Liang died, she occasionally felt eyes watching her. I think we should discard the remaining pieces of fabric, Zhang Min said. Burn them, or at least keep them far away from us. I agree, Qin Jin nodded. I'll throw away my piece of fabric tonight. Me too, Zhang Min said. Lin Zhu hesitated for a moment, then said, All right, I'll throw mine away too, but I still don't believe in these superstitions. The three split up, each going home to prepare to discard their pieces of fabric. Qin Jin returned home and took out the small pillow she had made from the red fabric. She held it in her hand, feeling a strange reluctance. The fabric was beautiful, and she had put effort into making it. But thinking of Qi Liang's death, Qin Jin resolved herself. She put the pillow in a trash bag, preparing to throw it into the trash can in the hallway. But when she opened the door, a strong gust of wind blew in, carrying the trash bag out of her hand. The pillow fell out and rolled onto the floor. Qin Jin bent down to pick it up. Suddenly, she heard a very faint whisper, as if coming from inside the pillow. Don't discard me, I will protect you, I am yours. Qin Jin startled, dropping the pillow, but when she listened carefully, there was no sound, only silence. I'm hallucinating, Qin Jin told herself. She quickly picked up the pillow, stuffed it into the trash bag, and threw it into the trash can in the hallway. Having done so, she returned home, closed the door, and breathed a sigh of relief. But that night, Qin Jin began to have nightmares. She dreamed she was standing in a dark room, surrounded by human skeletons. A woman in a red dress stood in the middle, her back to her. You discarded me, the woman said, her voice sad. I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. The woman slowly turned around. Qin Jin screamed when she saw that face, identical to Qi Liang's, but without eyes, just two bleeding black sockets. Now you must pay the price, the eyeless Qi Liang said, stepping forward. Qin Jin woke up with a start, her heart pounding wildly. She looked around. It was still her familiar bedroom, but on the pillow on her bed, the small red pillow lay there as if it had never been discarded. Lin Zhu was the only one of the remaining three who didn't believe in ghosts. She was a scientific researcher, working in the chemistry lab of a pharmaceutical company. To her, everything had a logical explanation. After returning home, Lin Zhu took out the small pouch she had made from the red fabric. Instead of discarding it as promised, she decided to study it. I will find a scientific explanation for these strange occurrences, Lin Zhu told herself. She brought the fabric to the lab, secretly performing some tests. She cut a small piece of the fabric and analyzed its composition. The results surprised her. The fabric was woven from silk, but it was mixed with a strange, unidentifiable substance. This substance reacted unusually with reagents, emitting a fluorescent light under UV lamps. Lin Zhu continued her research. She dripped reagents onto the fabric, noticing traces of hemoglobin, the protein in human blood. The fabric had been soaked in blood, and that blood wasn't fresh. It was over 100 years old. So the shop owner was right, Lin Zhu whispered. This fabric really was soaked in blood. But that still didn't explain why Qi Liang died and why the fabric couldn't be burned. Lin Zhu decided to investigate the origin of the cloth. She returned to the antique shop on Old Town Street, but the shop was closed. A note on the door read, "Business ceased." Lin Zhu asked around the surrounding shops. She learned that the antique shop owner had suddenly left a week ago, without telling anyone. He looked very frightened before he left, said a tea shop owner next door. He said something was following him, not leaving him alone. Lin Zhu felt a chill run down her spine. She decided to find more information about the red cloth. She went to the city library and searched the archives for local legends. After many hours of searching, she found an old book about the legends of the Jiangxin region. In it, there was a small chapter about the blood spirit cloth, a fabric soaked in the blood of an unjustly deceased person, carrying resentment and a curse. According to the book, over 100 years ago in Thienvu village, now part of Jiangxin's suburbs, a girl named Bang Nai was forced into marriage and eventually committed suicide. Her ghost could not find peace, becoming a vengeful spirit, causing many strange incidents. The book also stated that to break the curse of the blood spirit cloth, one must find a way to appease the resentment through offerings, or find the reason why the vengeful spirit cannot find peace and resolve it. Lin Zhu photographed the page from the book, deciding to share it with Qin Jin and Zhang Min. But by the time she left the library, it was already dark. On her way home, Lin Zhu felt like someone was following her. She turned to look, saw no one, but the feeling persisted. Lin Zhu sped up, her heart beating rapidly. Suddenly, a dark shadow darted out from a nearby alley and lunged at her. Lin Zhu screamed, but too late. The dark shadow dragged her into the dark alley. Lin Zhu's screams echoed out onto the street, but no one paid attention. The city was crowded and noisy. The cry of one girl was just one of thousands of other sounds. The next day, Qin Jin and Zhang Min couldn't reach Lin Zhu. Her phone went unanswered, messages unreplied. They went to Lin Zhu's house to check, but she wasn't home. Inquiring with neighbors, they learned Lin Zhu hadn't returned home since last night. "We have to report it to the police," Zhang Min said, worried. They went to the police station to report Lin Zhu's disappearance. The police took down the report, but said they had to wait 24 hours for an official investigation. "If you have any information, please contact us immediately," the police officer said. Qin Jin and Zhang Min left the police station feeling desperate. "I think Lin Zhu was also harmed by the vengeful spirit," Zhang Min said, her voice trembling. Qin Jin said nothing. She knew Zhang Min might be right. Qi Liang had died, now Lin Zhu was missing. Only the two of them were left. "We have to find a way to break the curse," Qin Jin said. "Otherwise, we'll also die like Qi Liang." "But how?" Zhang Min asked. "We don't know anything about ghosts, about exorcism." "There must be a way," Qin Jin said with determination. "I'll find someone who can help us." The two decided to seek out people with spiritual knowledge, hoping to find a way to save themselves and find Lin Zhu. After Lin Zhu's disappearance, 3 days passed with no news. Zhang Min began to live in constant fear. She knew she could be the next victim. The small doll's jacket she had made from the red fabric was still hanging in her wardrobe. Zhang Min had tried to throw it away many times, but each time she picked it up, she felt a strange pull that made her unable to let go. On the third night after Lin Zhu's disappearance, Zhang Min stayed awake all night, unable to sleep. She sat on her bed, clutching a pillow, staring at the wardrobe door. Inside the wardrobe, the red doll's jacket seemed to emit a faint glow in the darkness. "I mustn't be scared," Zhang Min told herself. "I must be strong. I must find a solution." But the more she tried to calm herself, the more panic she felt. Small sounds in the night, the wind blowing, the window creaking, someone walking in the hallway all made her jump. Suddenly, she heard a very faint crying sound, like a child sobbing. Zhang Min listened intently. The crying didn't come from outside, but from inside the room, from inside the wardrobe. She slowly got off the bed and walked closer to the wardrobe. The crying grew clearer and clearer. Is someone crying?" Zhang Min whispered. She placed her hand on the wardrobe door handle, hesitated for a moment, then opened it. Inside the wardrobe, the red doll's jacket hung there, nothing else. But the crying continued, now very clear, as if the child was right in front of her. Zhang Min trembled, reaching out to touch the doll's jacket. As soon as her finger touched the fabric, the crying stopped abruptly. Then a small voice, a child's voice, spoke. "Sister, why did you take my dress?" Zhang Min screamed, pulling her hand back. The doll's jacket fell to the floor. She backed away, her heart pounding wildly. Looking down at the floor, the red doll's jacket lay there motionless. "I'm hallucinating," Zhang Min told herself, trying to calm down. "There's nothing there, nothing at all." But as she turned to walk away, a small, icy cold hand grabbed her ankle. Zhang Min looked down and screamed hysterically. A small child, deathly pale, wearing a red dress, was crawling on the floor, clutching her foot. The child looked up at Zhang Min with pupil-less eyes, just hollow black sockets. "Sister, give me back my eyes." While Zhang Min faced terror in her apartment, Qin Jin was searching for help. After searching online and asking many people, Qin Jin found information about a Taoist priest named Xuan Than, who lived in a small Taoist temple on Thanvan Mountain, about 50 kilometers from Jiangxin City. Taoist master Xuan Than was rumored to be a highly skilled master, capable of exorcism and highly effective fortune-telling. Many people had sought his help with spiritual problems. Qin Jin hired a taxi to the mountain. The road up Thanvan Mountain was winding and narrow, with sheer cliffs on both sides. The driver drove very carefully, but it was still full of danger. Finally, after nearly 2 hours, they arrived at the Taoist temple. It was a small, ancient temple built of stone, with dark red tiled roofs. In front of the gate stood 200-year-old pine trees. Qin Jin stepped inside and met a young Taoist acolyte sweeping the courtyard. "Hello, I would like to see Taoist Master Xuan Than," Qin Jin said. The acolyte looked at her, nodded, Master is in the main hall, please follow me. Qin Jin followed the acolyte into the main hall. Inside, an old Taoist priest sat on a meditation cushion, his hair streaked with white, his beard long and white, wearing a faded Taoist robe. He looked to be about 70 years old, but his eyes shone brightly, penetrating, making Qin Jin feel as if he could read her mind. "What brings you to see me, devotee?" Taoist master Xuan Than asked, his voice deep and warm. Qin Jin recounted the entire story of the red cloth, Qi Liang's death, Lin Zu's disappearance, and the strange things happening to her and Zhang Min. Taoist master Xuan Than listened carefully without interrupting. When Qin Jin finished, he was silent for a moment, then sighed. "Devotee, you have become entangled with a very powerful vengeful spirit. I have heard of the blood spirit cloth, a fabric soaked in the blood of one who died unjustly, carrying a curse that spans generations." "So is there any way to break the curse?" Qin Jin asked, her voice pleading. Taoist master Xuan Than thought for a moment, then said, "There is, but it is very difficult. To break the curse of the blood spirit cloth, devotee, you must do 3 things. First, find the reason why the vengeful spirit cannot find peace. Often, it is an injustice that has not been resolved. Second, you must collect all the pieces of the red cloth that have been divided. If even one piece is missing, the curse cannot be broken. Third, you must perform a ritual on the full moon, using the blood of a willing person to cleanse the fabric, and at the same time apologize to the vengeful spirit and appease her resentment." "Blood of a willing person?" Qin Jin was startled. "Does that mean I have to kill someone?" "Not kill," Taoist master Xuan Than said. "Just take a small amount of blood, but that person must truly be willing, not forced. Otherwise, the resentment will only increase." Qin Jin nodded, taking note. "So how can I find the reason why the vengeful spirit cannot find peace?" "Devotee, you must return to the origin of the curse," Taoist master Xuan Than said. "Go to the old Vu village where the vengeful spirit once lived and died. There you will find clues." Taoist master Xuan Than gave Qin Jin a yellow talisman, saying, "Carry this talisman with you. It will protect you from the resentment for a short time. But remember, it is only effective for 7 days. After 7 days, if you have not broken the curse, the vengeful spirit will come for you." Qin Jin took the talisman, bowing her head in thanks. "Thank you, Taoist master. I will do my best." "I wish you good fortune, devotee," Taoist master Xuan Than said. "But be careful. This vengeful spirit has existed for over 100 years. Her resentment is very deep. Do not underestimate her." When Qin Jin returned to the city from Thanvan Mountain, it was already late evening. She immediately called Zhang Min, but no one answered. Qin Jin felt uneasy and rushed to Zhang Min's apartment. She knocked, but there was no response. "Zhang Min, open the door, it's me," Qin Jin called out, but still silence. Qin Jin, filled with fear, ran downstairs to find the building manager, asking for help to open the door. The manager hesitated for a moment, but seeing Qin Jin's extreme worry, he took out a spare key and opened the door. The door opened, and a smell of dampness and foulness rushed out. "Oh my God!" The manager covered his nose and stepped back. Qin Jin walked inside, her heart heavy. She knew she would see something horrific. And indeed, Zhang Min lay dead on the living room floor. Her eyes were wide open, her mouth agape as if she had screamed. But the most terrifying thing was that her body was tightly wrapped by dozens of red fabric pieces, constricted from neck to foot, causing her flesh to be deeply indented. Those pieces of fabric were not just Zhang Min's piece. They seemed to have multiplied on their own, completely covering her body. Qin Jin knelt beside Zhang Min, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, I'm too late." The manager, trembling, called the police. While waiting, Qin Jin carefully observed her surroundings. On the room walls were messages written in blood. "Debts must be paid. A life for a life. Blood for blood." Qin Jin felt a chill run down her spine. She knew the vengeful spirit was sending her a message. 3 friends had died or gone missing, now only she remained. "I must break the curse," Qin Jin told herself. "Not just for myself, but for Qi Liang, Lin Zu, and Zhang Min, I must bring them peace." After the police completed their investigation of the crime scene and concluded that Zhang Min died of asphyxiation, though no one could explain why there were fabric pieces wrapped around her body, Qin Jin decided to carry out her plan. She had to go to the old Vu village, where the story began. But first, she needed to collect all the pieces of red cloth. Qi Liang's piece, the scarf, had been buried by Mrs. Du in the old cemetery. Qin Jin had to dig it up. Zhang Min's piece, the doll's jacket, along with the strange fabric pieces wrapped around her body, had been seized by the police as evidence. Qin Jin had to find a way to retrieve them. Lin Zhu's piece, the small pouch, was of unknown whereabouts as Lin Zhu was still missing. And Qin Jin's own piece, the small pillow, was still in her house, despite her attempts to throw it away many times. Qin Jin began to act. First, she went to the old cemetery at midnight and dug up Qi Liang's piece of fabric. Luckily, Mrs. Du had not buried it deeply, and Qin Jin found it easily. Next, she contacted a friend who worked in the legal profession, asking for help to retrieve the fabric pieces from the police. This friend managed to persuade the police that the fabric pieces were Zhang Min's personal belongings and her family wanted them back for remembrance. After many procedures, the police agreed to return them. That left Lin Zhu's piece of fabric. Qin Jin didn't know where Lin Zhu was, alive or dead. She could only hope that when she arrived at Thinvu village, she would find a clue. 3 days later, Qin Jin had collected 3 pieces of fabric, along with her own. She carefully wrapped them in a white cloth bag, pasting Taoist master Xuan Than's yellow talisman on top. Then she hired a car to the old Thinvu village. Thinvu village was no longer a village but a small historical site. The local government had relocated the villagers elsewhere, leaving behind dilapidated, scattered old houses. Qin Jin walked into the village, feeling a heavy, gloomy atmosphere. The ruined houses, overgrown with weeds, were devoid of human presence. She took out an old map she had copied from the library, found the Lam family's house, where Bang Ka's story had happened 30 years ago. The house had been burned down, leaving only foundations and a few blackened walls, surrounded by rubble and ashes. Qin Jin stood amidst the ashes, feeling a current of cold air rising from the ground. She trembled but still walked forward, beginning to search. After a while of digging, she found an old wooden chest buried halfway underground. She dug it up and opened the lid. Inside was an old diary, its pages yellowed, the ink faded. Qin Jin carefully took it out and flipped through it. It was Mrs. Lam's diary, Bang Ka's mother. In it, she recorded the entire story of the red cloth, the curse, and how she had to personally kill her daughter. Qin Jin read each line, tears streaming down her face. She felt the suffering and despair of that mother. And on the last page, Mrs. Lam wrote, "I killed my daughter, but the curse still didn't dissipate." Bang Nai, the vengeful spirit of the red cloth, did not want to find peace. She wanted the whole world to sink into suffering as she had. But I understand now. Bang Nai didn't just want revenge, she also wanted to be loved, to be understood. She died for love. Her beloved was killed and she couldn't live without him. If someone could give her love, could replace Shanghai, her beloved, then perhaps she would find peace. But I couldn't do it. I lost everything. I can only die and hope that someone will someday complete what I couldn't. Qin Jin finished reading and understood. To break the curse, it wasn't just ritual and blood, but also love asterisk. Someone needed to truly love the vengeful spirit to soothe her pain. But how could one love a vengeful spirit? A ghost who had been dead for over 100 years. That night, Qin Jin decided to stay in Thinvu village, sleeping in one of the remaining old houses. She knew she needed to meet the vengeful spirit to speak with her directly. At midnight, the full moon shone brightly in the sky. Qin Jin sat in the old house, spreading out the 4 pieces of red fabric before her, lighting candles and burning incense. "Bang Nai, if you can hear me, please appear," Qin Jin said aloud. "I want to talk to you." At first, nothing happened, but gradually the air grew cold. The candles flickered, then died. In the darkness, a figure appeared. It was a young woman in a red dress with long hair, her face beautiful, but her eyes were empty, devoid of light. "You called me," Bang Nai said, her voice chilling. Qin Jin swallowed, trying to remain calm. "Yes, I want to ask for your forgiveness. My 3 friends died because of your curse. Please release them and me too." Bang Nai scoffed, a bitter, sharp laugh. "Release? Did anyone release me? I loved but was betrayed. I trusted but was deceived. I wanted to live but was forced to die. Why should I release?" "But you've already had your revenge," Qin Jin said. "You killed those who made you suffer. Now you're killing innocent people. That's not fair." "Fair?" Bang Nai shrieked. "Where is the fairness in this world? I died unjustly. My soul has wandered for over 100 years. No one performed a ritual for me. I could only become a vengeful spirit, seeking someone to vent my resentment upon. That is my fate." Qin Jin was silent. She felt Bang Nai's pain, but she also knew that if she couldn't convince her, she would die. Suddenly, from behind Bang Nai, another figure appeared. It was Lin Zhu, but looking very different. Her skin was deathly pale, her eyes cloudy, her body frail as if about to dissipate. "Lin Zhu," Qin Jin cried out, "you're still alive." Lin Zhu looked at Qin Jin, her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Then Bang Nai spoke for her. "She is no longer alive. Her soul has been held captive by me, just like the others before her." Qin Jin trembled. So what do you want? What do you want me to do for you to release them?" Bang Nai was silent for a moment, then said, "I want love. I want someone to love me as Shanghai once did. If you can give me that, I will find peace." Qin Jin was surprised. Just as Mrs. Lamb's diary wrote, Bang Nai doesn't just want revenge, she also wants to be loved. "But how can I love you?" Qin Jin asked. "You are a vengeful spirit, I am a living person. We belong to two different worlds." "That's why it's difficult," Bang Nai said. "But if you cannot do it, all of you will die, and your souls will be eternally imprisoned by me." Qin Jin pondered in silence. She knew she had to make a decision, either find a way to love a vengeful spiritan almost impossible task or die and have her soul imprisoned forever. But then she remembered Taoist Master Xuan Than's words, "The person must be truly willing." Perhaps love here didn't mean romantic love, but compassion, understanding, sharing. Qin Jin stood up and walked closer to Bang Nai. The spirit retreated cautiously. "Sister Bang Nai," Qin Jin said, her voice gentle. "I understand your pain, betrayed, coerced, forced to die in bitterness. No one deserves to go through that, but you must also understand that killing innocent people cannot erase your pain. It only creates more suffering for others. If you want to be loved, you must first let go of hatred. Hatred will only make you more lonely, more miserable." Bang Nai was silent, looking at Qin Jin. A faint light seemed to flicker in her empty eyes. Qin Jin continued, "I cannot love you as Shanghai loved you, but I can share your pain, understand you, and forgive you. Love comes in many forms, not just romantic love, but also compassion, empathy, the connection between people or between people and spirits." Bang Nai trembled, drops of blood-like tears streamed from her empty eyes. You truly mean that?" she asked, her voice choked. "Yes," Qin Jin nodded. "I truly do. I want to help you find peace. Not because I'm afraid to die, but because I don't want you to suffer anymore. 100 years of wandering is enough. You deserve to rest in peace." Bang Nai wept bitterly, a mournful sound echoing in the night. Then she knelt, covering her face. I was wrong. I did so many cruel things, but I couldn't stop. The resentment was too strong, it controlled me." Qin Jin knelt beside Bang Nai, gently placing her hand on the spirit's shoulder. The sensation was icy cold, but Qin Jin didn't withdraw her hand. "You can stop now," Qin Jin said. "Here now we can end it all, release those who have died. Find peace. Find Shanghai in the other world. He's waiting for you." Bang Nai looked up at Qin Jin, her empty eyes now filled with light. She smiled, a sad but serene smile. "You are right. I am tired. I want to rest." On the full moon of the 8th month, Qin Jin prepared a ritual for Bang Nai. She spread the 4 pieces of red fabric on the old house floor, arranging them into a large square as if restoring the original cloth. Then she took a small knife and cut her palm, letting blood flow out. The blood dripped onto the fabric, soaking in. Bang Nai stood nearby, watching with gentle eyes. Beside her, the souls of Lin Zhu, Qi Liang, and Zhang Min also appeared, looking at Qin Jin with gratitude. "I'm sorry," Bang Nai said to the 3 spirits. "I killed you, I'm sorry." The 3 spirits remained silent, then nodded. They forgave her. Qin Jin's blood continued to flow, staining the fabric red. But this time, it wasn't the terrifying, vibrant red from before, but a gentle, pale pink. The fabric began to glow, a warm white light. The threads of the fabric slowly dissolved, transforming into small lights that floated upwards into the sky. Bang Nai also began to dissipate. Her body became transparent, light shining through it. "Thank you," she said to Qin Jin. "You gave me what I needed. Not love, but forgiveness and compassion. That is the noblest form of love. Then she looked up at the sky and smiled. Shanghai, I'm coming for you now. Bang Nai's figure completely vanished, along with the three souls of Qi Liang, Lin Zhu, and Zhang Min. They all flew upwards, merging into the moonlight. Qin Jin sat there, exhausted. The wound on her hand was still bleeding, but she felt a lightness in her heart. It was all over. The curse was broken. Her friends had finally found peace. 3 months later, Qin Jin returned to Thienvu village, bringing fresh flowers and incense. She erected a small tomb for Bang Nai, engraving her name and Zhang Hai's on the stone tablet. Beside it, she also erected 3 more tombs for Qi Liang, Lin Zhu, and Zhang Min to commemorate her 3 lost friends. Every year on the full moon of the 8th month, Qin Jin would come here to light incense and pray for them. Her life continued, but she never forgot what had happened. She learned a valuable lesson. Love, compassion, and forgiveness are the most powerful things in the world. And sometimes, we need to confront darkness not with violence, but with our hearts. The red cloth had completely disappeared, but its story lived on, recounted as a warning, a lesson, and a tale of redemption.